Chapter 1051 Speech. Xie Jingrong didn't intend to eavesdrop, but he happened to witness He Jiqing and Qiao Xian's conversation by the lake. He Jiqing appeared cunning and gloomy. Xie Jingrong had never held any affection for her, but his grandmother, mother, and sisters seemed to favor her, so he chose not to voice his dislike openly. Instead, he tried to avoid being alone with her whenever possible. However, he hadn't anticipated her audacity. Some time ago, during a half-drunken state after a banquet, he had briefly entertained the idea of playing a prank on her. Yet, he quickly realized it was a disrespectful notion and rejected it. Since it involved her reputation, and he hadn't truly suffered any harm, he didn't disclose the incident to anyone. However, he subtly hinted at it to his grandmother. Being perceptive, his grandmother promptly decided to send He Jiqing back to her own home. It wasn't that the Xie family couldn't provide for her, but they couldn't afford to support a wicked cousin. He Jiqing kept stalling, taking advantage of her grandmother's fondness for her, attempting to delay her departure. Yet her grandmother remained resolute. Regardless of the delays, He Jiqing would eventually have to leave. When Xie Jingrong saw He Jiqing with Qiao Xian, he grew concerned that she might harbor ill intentions towards Qiao Xian. Thus, he quietly approached her. However, he never expected to overhear such words. A smile crept across Xie Jingrong's face. Even without his intervention, Qiao Xian had managed to unnerve He Jiqing. If it weren't for Qiao Xian, he might never have discovered He Jiqing's true nature, her despicableness and shamelessness. Disgust welled up within Xie Jingrong. The following day, Xie Jingrong sought his grandmother once more. Madame Yuezheng arranged for a car to be prepared, ready to send He Jiqing away the following day. Caught off guard, He Jiqing felt a sense of guilt, but she didn't dare to insist. With anger in her heart, she left the Xie family. She believed that Qiao Xian must have divulged something to Xie Jingrong, which fueled her resentment. When Qiao Xian found Tao Tao and Xiaoman returned, she felt relieved. After a while, servants from First Madame Xie's household invited them to dinner, and they all went together. They spent the entire morning watching the show and discussing the 8 trigrams, which gradually warmed up the atmosphere. Miss Feng became less reserved and could respond with a smile now and then. After lunch, they listened to 2 more scenes. As it neared 4 in the afternoon, everyone bid farewell one by one. As they left the Xie mansion and settled into the wagon, Miss Feng and Tao Tao couldn't help but relax, feeling quite tired once they let down the curtain. Miss Feng immediately turned to Qiao Xian and asked, "Ms. Qiao, what did you think of my performance today? Did I make any mistakes? Will people gossip about me?" Tao Tao too was anxious. "And what about me, 5th sister-in-law? Don't hesitate to tell me." Qiao Xian found their concern amusing and replied, "Don't worry about me or Tao Tao. I have always conducted myself appropriately, so who would dare to laugh at me? Tao Tao, you did wonderfully as well. There's nothing to worry about. We can continue doing the same in the future." "Really? Absolutely. That's good," Ms. Feng said with a smile. "As long as we avoid mistakes, I can relax. But dealing with such matters is truly challenging, even more exhausting than working in the fields. Oh dear, the fewer such incidents, the better. I can't handle them, honestly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1052. Preparing to go back. Shao Taotao grasped the point Qiao Xian made. It's even more exhausting than working in the fields. Working in the fields had never made her feel tired. Qiao Xian suppressed her laughter. "I'm not seeking friendship from anyone, so let's be open about getting to know each other. If someone has high standards and wants to make things difficult for us, we don't have to accommodate them. So don't be nervous." Ms. Feng felt relieved and replied with a smile, "That's true." As they discussed the wealth of the Xie family, Ms. Feng couldn't help but sigh once again. She had never imagined that such a family could exist in this world. Tao Tao couldn't help but envy them. No other family could compare to the Xie family. Despite their limited experience, they could sense that this was what a true aristocratic family was like. The following day, accompanied by Shao Yunduan, they visited the Yuezheng family as guests and spent half a day in the city. Ms. Fong expressed her desire to go to Lingyuan Temple to burn incense and pray, so they all decided to go together. Ms. Fong was concerned about her family and felt it was best to return home as soon as possible. After all, there were only 2 girls at home, and while staying for 3 or 5 days was fine, it wouldn't be ideal to prolong their absence. Everyone agreed. After a few days in the provincial city, they had eaten their fill, bought what they needed, and indulged in some shopping. They were content, and it was time to return. After Qiao Xian and Ms. Fong paid their respects at the temple, Shao Yunduan took Qiao Xian to explore the back of the mountain. The lush green pines and bamboo covered the mountains, while the spring water cascaded over rocks. Birds chirped, and flowers swayed in the breeze. The 2 of them strolled, talking and laughing. Occasionally, Shao Yunduan would wrap his arms around Qiao Xian, showering her with affectionate kisses, causing her cheeks to blush. As they descended the mountain, Qiao Xian happily held a large bouquet of flowers he had picked for her. It was a sight filled with vibrant colors and beauty. When Yang Xiaoni saw this, she envyingly asked for some to share, but Qiao Xian came up with an excuse to brush it off. Yuezheng Shao could send word to Shouting Village to inform them when the people who had gone south returned. Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan couldn't afford to wait here indefinitely. First Madame understood their limited time, and expressed her wish for them to stay a few more days. After all, it was a rare opportunity for the family to be together in the future. She had already arranged many gifts for Qiao Xian to take back, and urged her to rest at home once she returned to the capital. Qiao Xian nodded, smiling in agreement. Upon their return to the village, Ms. Yang came to visit them. Yang Xiaoni offered her one of the items she had purchased as a gift. Although Yang Xiaoni still owed Ms. Yang 3 liang, Ms. Yang refused to accept the money. She kindly remarked that it was a small favor and didn't warrant repayment. Yang Xiaoni politely declined, expressing her gratitude with a smile. It wasn't that they were greedy for the money, but everyone in the first section of the family was well off and didn't need to be concerned about such small amounts. However, Ms. Yang's reasoning was sound, so Yang Xiaoni graciously accepted it. Yang Xiaoni gave Ms. Yang 2 packets of candied fruits, along with melon seeds and peanuts, which Ms. Yang accepted with a smile. Qiao Xian also presented Ms. Yang with a pair of silk flowers, 2 powder boxes, and a pair of silver bracelets. Since Ms. Yen had always maintained a good relationship with the first section of the family, Ms. Niu, although resentful, recognized the benefits of maintaining a positive rapport. Therefore, she refrained from scolding Ms. Yen over this matter. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1053, Marriage. Regarding the first section of the family, they were grateful to Ms. Yen for providing them with advanced knowledge about various matters. Ms. Yen informed Ms. Fong and Qiao Xian about Shao Erlang's upcoming marriage. This was the first time Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni had heard about it, so they were eager to learn more. Yang Xiaoni couldn't help but complain. Finally, second uncle's marriage has been settled. Auntie Niu keeps talking about finding good and outstanding girls from other families. Why do the girls always get chosen? Ms. Su silently agreed with a smile. In the past, she had been somewhat tempted to introduce girls from her own family to Shao Erlang. After all, the second section of the family was now living a comfortable life. However, her timid nature held her back, and she never voiced her thoughts. Ms. Yen smiled helplessly and sighed. She was well aware of the kind of person mother-in-law was, but she couldn't openly voice her complaints. Upon hearing that Shao Erlang's prospective wife was a widow, Yang Xiaoni was so surprised that her jaw almost dropped. Learning that she was Ms. Yanan's cousin, Yang Xiaoni smiled again. That's good. Since she's an acquaintance, she'll be able to get along well with you in the future. Ms. Fong chimed in with a smile. Exactly. I believe this marriage is the best choice. If Shao Erlang had married a young girl, she would have been at the mercy of Ms. Niu's bullying. But widows were different. They had experienced the ups and downs of life. With Ms. Yan's support, it would be difficult for Ms. Niu to show off. The second section of the family kept Ms. Niu under control to ensure peace within the household. Observing their conversation, Ms. Su couldn't help but interject. Well, Auntie Nyo wasn't satisfied with many people, and she insisted on finding a good daughter-in-law for second brother Shao. Why did she agree in the end? Ms. Yen smiled and replied, "It's fate. My cousin and my second brother met once and fell in love. Even my father-in-law liked her when my second brother expressed his desire to marry her. Mother-in-law initially refused, but she eventually gave in." That was indeed true. Ms. Su decided to let go of her concerns and allowed Ms. Yen to handle everything as she pleased. In Ms. Zu's perspective, what did it matter if the prospective bride was a widow? Was she truly worth her worries and labor? Not fully understanding the meaning behind Ms. Yan's words, Ms. Su simply nodded with a smile. "I understand." As she counted the days, she realized that the wedding date was drawing near, with less than half a month remaining. Ms. Nyo had already distanced herself from the preparations. Since Ms. Yen had no prior experience with such matters, she felt a bit anxious and turned to Ms. Fong for assistance. She asked Ms. Fong to guide her and help her understand anything she found confusing. After a moment of contemplation, Ms. Fong agreed and advised, "Just keep it hidden from your mother-in-law and ensure she remains unaware." She had no desire to provoke her further. Ms. Yen readily agreed. It was only much later that Ms. Nyo discovered the extent of her daughter-in-law's assistance during Ms. Fang's wedding, which infuriated her to the point of falling ill. Ms. Fong was even more concerned about Tao Tao's family. That night, as she talked with Qiao Xian about Shao Yunduan, she couldn't help but sigh. Ms. Fong was at a loss about what to do regarding Tao Tao's family. Now that her daughter had grown so capable, she appeared more intelligent and resourceful. Seeing her like this, Ms. Fong couldn't bear the thought of pairing her with a simple-minded country bumpkin who knew nothing. She felt that she would have treated Tao Tao unfairly. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1054. Troubled. It wasn't that no one from the affluent family had come forward to reveal their intention of marriage. Therefore, Ms. Fong hesitated to respond, fearing that she might be wrongly accused. Who in such a family didn't have a suitor or a potential match? Although she could find a promising partner from an ordinary farming family, Ms. Fong still had reservations. While the family was respectable, there was a possibility that her daughter might not be pleased with her background when she attended high school in the future. Furthermore, if the man in question didn't have a stable job or didn't achieve success, her daughter would suffer as a result. What would be the point of marrying such a man? Given that most businessmen were often unscrupulous and driven by impure motives, Ms. Fong couldn't ascertain their true intentions and was apprehensive. As a result, Tao Tao's marriage became a quandary. When Ms. Fong voiced her concerns, Shao Yunduan and Xiao Xian exchanged glances. It was indeed a significant issue. Being Tao Tao's only sister, her family showered her with love and naturally desired for her to have a prosperous and trouble-free life through a good marriage. However, her maiden family worried about her living under someone else's roof. What Ms. Fong hadn't disclosed to Xiao Xian and Shao Yunduan was that during the period when they had left home and come to the capital, her eldest uncle had nearly revealed information about Tao Tao's prospective marriage. The couple from the third section had ulterior motives. They had invited her eldest uncle to a dinner and attempted to get him intoxicated. That's when they broached the topic of Tao Tao's family. Eldest uncle was so elated that he readily agreed. They were discussing a well-to-do family in the neighboring village of Ms. Ma's family. Ms. Ma had requested eldest uncle to alter the invitation before informing Ms. Fong, but eldest uncle wasn't foolish enough to disclose it to her the next day. He believed that there was nothing wrong with revealing it. The other party belonged to an affluent family and was an ideal match for Tao Tao. What could possibly go wrong? Besides, how could his third sister-in-law and brother deceive their family? They had made the introduction, so there surely wouldn't be any issues. When eldest uncle informed Ms. Fong about the matter, he boasted about it, emphasizing how well third brother and third sister-in-law treated Tao Tao, and how much they cared for her. Ms. Fong, who had always been skeptical of them, was startled by these words. She hurriedly went to the third branch to confront Ms. Ma, and they engaged in a heated argument, eventually causing Ms. Ma to back down. She had no right to interfere in her own daughter's affairs. Regarding what Ms. Ma was referring to, eldest uncle refused to acknowledge it. If Ms. Ma liked it so much, she should just arrange for her own daughter to marry into that family. Ms. Fong wasn't concerned about whether the family was rich or not. What she knew was that Ms. Ma had ulterior motives, and whatever she had promised couldn't be anything good. As long as she understood this, it was enough for her to make the right judgment. Eldest uncle was merely engaging in casual conversation, and there was no involvement of a matchmaker or an exchange of formal invitations. Ms. Fong made her stance clear, and that should have been the end of the matter. However, that wasn't the case. Ms. Ma held a grudge and secretly wished for something unfavorable to happen. Yet, she still went to discuss the marriage with the Sun family. The Sun family was ecstatic and proceeded to invite a matchmaker to the first section of the Shao family for the exchange of invitations and marriage discussions. They were eager to marry off Tao as soon as possible. This greatly infuriated Ms. Fong, and she promptly asked the matchmaker to leave, stating that it was all a misunderstanding. What marriage? Absolutely not. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1055 A Mistake. Suppressing her anger, Ms. Fong maintained a pleasant demeanor in front of the matchmaker. Tao had to rely on the matchmaker to find a suitable match, so she couldn't afford to offend her. Who knew what the matchmaker might say otherwise? Initially, the matchmaker was perplexed about how the Sun family could arrange a marriage with the highly recommended Shao family. They might even become relatives of an advanced scholar in the future. She had approached the situation with skepticism. Upon hearing Ms. Fang's words, the matchmaker breathed a sigh of relief and left without saying anything further. She wasn't foolish and could discern that Ms. Fong was suppressing her anger. The Sun family, truly. This was the first encounter between the matchmaker and the Sun family, so they were taken aback and somewhat enraged. They insisted that they had reached an agreement regarding the marriage, so how could the first section of the family renege on their word? The matchmaker remained unconvinced and couldn't help but inquire. Did recommended man Shao's parents genuinely consent to this marriage? The wife of the Sun family retorted. It was recommended man Shao's third aunt-in-law who personally informed us that her elder brother agreed. Otherwise, we wouldn't have invited you. We can't back down now. Although our Sun family may not be as prestigious as theirs, we're not ones to be casually bullied or trifled with. The matchmaker understood everything. Being well acquainted with all the villages and familiar with the local customs, she couldn't help but chuckle. No wonder. You might not be aware, but the first section, second section, and third section of the Shao family have always had a strained relationship, particularly the second section, who have engaged in many inappropriate actions and severed ties with the first section. I suspect the third section of the family isn't heeding your wishes. They might be attempting to deceive you. The daughter-in-law of the Sun family grew displeased upon hearing this. But they're biological brothers. How can you say such things? Isn't what this brother-in-law's daughter-in-law said the truth? It doesn't make sense. Observing the tension, the matchmaker pursed her lips and refrained from further comments. As expected, Mrs. Sun was determined to go to Shouting Village and confront eldest uncle and Ms. Fong. She even rallied some members of the Sun family to accompany her. Ms. Fong chose to ignore their actions. Instead, she sought the assistance of the land officer and the village elders to mediate the situation with Ms. Ma and uncover the whole truth. Ms. Fong insisted on waiting for Shao Yunduan to return and make the final decision, as per Shao Yunduan's wishes before his departure. He had made it clear that he wouldn't consider marrying Tao until his return. As Tao's mother, Ms. Fong was in the dark about the entire situation. However, Ms. Ma, being Tao's aunt, had already made the promise. It simply didn't make sense. If Ms. Fong wasn't present, eldest uncle might have given in to Ms. Ma and third uncle's demands. But with Ms. Fang's presence, he couldn't side with his wife. Therefore, he decided that they would discuss the matter when Shao Yunduan returned. If Shao Yunduan had no objections, then the marriage would proceed. However, soon enough, Ms. Fong discovered that epilepsy ran in the Sun family. Members of the Sun family, including Madame Sun's father-in-law, Madame Sun's husband, and the intended groom for Tao, all suffered from this illness. When it flared up, they would convulse on the ground, foaming at the mouth and rolling their eyes. It was a frightening sight. If Tao were to marry into the Sun family, there was a high probability that her son would also inherit this illness. Even if her son escaped it, her grandson would likely be affected. There was no known cure for this condition. Enraged by this revelation, Ms. Fong scolded eldest uncle and dragged him to the third branch, where she slapped Ms. Ma twice. The following day, she arranged for the village representatives to confront Ms. Ma at the Sun family and bring the truth to light. The wedding arrangements were no longer going to proceed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1056. Stone on the Feet. It was out of the question for Tao to marry someone afflicted with an illness. Were the Sun family taking advantage of the fact that there were no influential figures in Shouting Village? The village chief and elders of Shouting Village were also incensed. They reprimanded third uncle Shao and Madame Ma for their disrespect. Tao was the sister of high scholar Shao, and she might even be the sister of an advanced scholar Shao. How could she be married off to such a person? This was a direct insult to her fifth brother. As Tao's biological sister, what kind of esteemed family could she be married into? The Sun family was undoubtedly in the wrong. Moreover, the marriage had never been finalized. It was merely mentioned informally. If the Shao family was unwilling, then it wouldn't happen. No one could argue otherwise. The Sun family displayed great arrogance. Madame Sun even shouted, "There's nothing wrong with our family. If you break your promise like this, it will tarnish your daughter's reputation. In the future, if you can't find a suitable family, come back and seek us out. It won't be so easy then." Ms. Fong was infuriated, but couldn't help but burst into laughter. "Don't worry, my daughter isn't concerned about getting married. And who are you to question my integrity? Go confront whoever fed you this information." Throughout history, when it comes to marriage, it has been the parents who act as matchmakers. I have never heard of parents being bypassed, only for the neighbor's aunt to have the final say. What a ridiculous notion. Ms. Ma interjected, "Sister-in-law, you can't say that. Elder brother has already agreed to it." Ms. Fong retorted sharply, "Our families are worlds apart, or do you think I'm unaware of that? Did you forget about me when I'm away from home? You may inform your elder brother, but why did you hide it from me? I explicitly told you not to mention it again. Yet you still came to my house to sow discord. What are you trying to achieve?" Ms. Fong sneered as she pointed at Ms. Ma and addressed Mrs. Sun. "My sister-in-law hails from a respected family, and her son is a promising scholar. He has a bright future ahead of him. If you're curious about their opinion, why not ask her? If she's so content with your family, she'd likely be willing to marry off her own daughter." Ms. Ma was taken aback. "What are you talking about? You don't want to?" Ms. Feng's anger flared even higher. "If you're unwilling, how dare you claim that you're acting in Tao's best interest? Our Tao has a brother who's on his way to becoming an advanced scholar. Isn't he more suitable than your daughter?" "You." Ms. Feng's words ignited a furious response from Ms. Ma. Mrs. Sun's eyes gleamed with excitement as she looked at Ms. Ma. Feeling a surge of confidence, she dared not entertain thoughts about the first section of the Shao family. If Ms. Fong didn't agree, then recommended man and the advanced scholar wouldn't agree either. Moreover, the entire Shouting Village would rally behind them. Most importantly, there had been no formal exchange of invitations between their families, and Ms. Fong had never given her consent to this marriage. Tao wasn't the least bit concerned about her reputation being affected. Mrs. Sun couldn't intimidate her. So what if she refused to give up? Though she was quite adept at causing trouble, little did she expect that the Fong family would stir up even more trouble. She couldn't emerge victorious, however, since Ms. Ma had brought up the topic of marriage. It was only natural for her to seek clarification, right? Ms. Fong sneered, no longer invested in this matter, and firmly instructed eldest uncle to refrain from interfering. He wasn't allowed to mention anything about Tao's marriage ever again. Eldest uncle didn't utter a word, but he couldn't shake off his lingering annoyance. He wasn't foolish. Yet he didn't want to view his second and third brothers in an overly negative light. Somehow, he still held on to the belief that they weren't entirely to blame. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1057. Sad and disappointed. Every time something occurred, eldest uncle convinced himself that his brothers didn't intend it, that they must have had their reasons. Perhaps they were unaware of how things would escalate and didn't mean any harm. After all, despite women being known for their pettiness and scheming, the three of them were blood relatives. In their youth, second brother and third brother had respected and listened to him so much. Though they often quarreled, they never dared to lay a hand on him. He would always step in to mediate. Those were good times. How did it all change? He refused to believe it, or rather, he didn't want to believe it. Yet, with each passing event, his confidence teetered on the brink of collapse. He relied on his own convictions and support, but his two brothers repeatedly undermined him. He could no longer contain his emotions. As much as he wished to trust them, he had no choice but to surrender to the truth. The harsh reality hit him the hardest. He wanted to avoid it, but it was impossible. This matter involved his children. How could he evade it? Eldest uncle was overcome with disappointment and anguish, rendering him unusually quiet. Misinterpreting his silence as guilt, Miss Fong, infuriated, paid no attention to him. She desired nothing more than his silence. Only when he promised not to interfere in the family affairs concerning the children did Ms. Fong find some solace. Ms. Sun proved to be clingy indeed. While Ms. Fong observed the unfolding drama from the sidelines, she gathered her composure and made sure Ms. Ma faced the consequences. Ms. Ma was filled with anger, regret, and fear. How could she not be frightened? Tao Tao had Shao Yunduan to protect her, so her reputation was of little concern. However, it was different for her daughter, Shao Xiaoji. She had attempted to use Shao Lulang to intimidate the Sun family's wife, but how could a mere student like Shao Lulang possibly intimidate the wife of the Sun family? In a state of desperation, Ms. Ma contemplated following Ms. Fang's lead and seeking assistance, only to be scolded by the land officer and the village elders. The land officer, elders, and others were not present to resolve trivial matters for everyone. Interfering in such affairs would only burden them with endless trivialities in the future. They would be utterly exhausted. Troubles should be resolved individually. Ms. Ma grew infuriated and decided to approach the first section of the family for a discussion. This action provoked a hot-tempered female elder, who sneered and retorted, "What can you say? Who in this village can compare to the recommended man's family? If you want to be considered on par with them, start by donating 400 acres of family land to the clan, and contributing a few hundred taels of silver to the village school. Only then, when you come seeking help again, we might consider assisting you. Don't be deluded. The recommended man's family has made tremendous contributions to our village. Even if he is not present, how can the village turn a blind eye when his mother requests assistance?" Her words struck a chord in Ms. Ma's heart. However, how could she produce 400 acres of family farmland and a few hundred taels of silver? She didn't possess such resources, and even if she did, parting with them would be unbearable. When Shao Yunduan undertook such actions, she secretly ridiculed him, but now she felt the sting of her own hypocrisy. Left with no choice, Ms. Ma reluctantly compensated Mrs. Sun with 30 liang, and left the matter unresolved. She felt immense remorse for the money spent and, along with third uncle, approached eldest uncle in private to express their grievances, hoping he would make amends. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1058. Waiting? But eldest uncle informed them that he had no money and that all the money in the household belonged to Ms. Fong. As a result, they hesitated to ask Ms. Fong for it, fearing they might face physical retribution. Ms. Ma and third uncle grew even more frustrated. They didn't dare to approach Ms. Fong for the money. They would likely end up enduring a few slaps instead. Ms. Fong, aware of their loss of 30 liang, coldly smiled and felt a sense of relief. Since she had recently severed ties with the second section of the family, it wasn't the right time to cut off her relationship with the third section. Thus, Ms. Fong chose not to mention it. In short, the third section had brought trouble upon themselves, and they were the ones suffering the consequences. Ms. Fong didn't want Shao Yunduan to be bothered by this issue, so she refrained from informing him or Qiao Xian about it, nor did she allow her family to mention it. Nevertheless, she took Tao Tao's family matter seriously. Shao Yunduan had become an official with a promising future. With Qi being absent, many people had their eyes on Tao Tao. It was needless to say that the second section of the family was no longer suitable. The third section had learned their lesson, and no longer entertained the idea. However, Ms. Fong worried about the possibility of someone intentionally luring Tao Tao. Tao Tao was an innocent girl who had never experienced the world, so there was concern about her being seduced. That was Ms. Fang's primary worry. After expressing her thoughts, Ms. Fong let out a sigh. Think it over and decide for me. What should we do about Tao Tao? It would be wonderful if we could settle this before you come to the capital. Hearing these words, Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian exchanged glances and smiled helplessly. Marriage wasn't something that could be resolved so easily, especially when it involved Tao Tao. Being the only girl in the family, Shao Yunduan couldn't afford to be careless. Even if Tao Tao married a man of questionable character and had her family's support, it would ultimately bring her pain and suffering. After Ms. Fong departed, Qiao Xian gazed at Shao Yunduan with a smile. This is quite a challenging situation, isn't it? Shao Yunduan nodded and pulled her into his embrace. You always have brilliant ideas. Why don't you share your thoughts with me? Qiao Xian pondered for a moment. I believe there is no one in the surrounding villages, including the county city, who is truly deserving of Tao Tao. Shao Yunduan. He didn't know whether to laugh or sigh, but upon careful consideration, Qiao Xian's observation seemed to hold some truth. Darling, don't forget. Qiao Xian swatted away his playful hands. Tao Tao has a substantial amount of personal wealth, at least 1,000 taels, right? When she gets married, her family will provide a generous dowry, and we will contribute significantly as well. So who else in the countryside can measure up to her? Qiao Xian continued. Furthermore, look at how skilled Tao Tao has become. She knows everything, especially when it comes to making lipstick. She has mastered the entire process. I only shared with her the ratio of beeswax and flower juice. Even after she marries, she should remain in control of this matter. However, she needs to be cautious about the family she marries into. What concerns me the most is whether her husband's family might attempt to secretly learn the process when they see the money involved, or even exploit it to harm Tao Tao. But if we forbid her from intervening in this matter because she's married, won't she feel miserable? Qiao Xian's decision to pass down the entire process to Tao Tao stemmed from her lack of trust in Ms. Su. Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni were sisters-in-law. And if Yang Xiaoni were the one to inherit the knowledge, Ms. Su would become the sister-in-law. How could she accept that? Conflicts within the family were bound to arise. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1059, Into Mountains. However, Ms. Su was different from Yang Xiaoni. Yang Xiaoni was stubborn and would listen to Qiao Xian, but not Ms. Su. After all, they were aware of the profitability of the lipstick business, even if they didn't have complete knowledge. If Ms. Su were to discover it, she might secretly inform her own family. Qiao Xian couldn't take such a risk. The two sisters-in-law decided not to disclose the information to anyone but Tao Tao. Moreover, Tao Tao was more intelligent than both of them, so she quickly grasped the concepts and performed exceptionally well. Most importantly, Tao Tao had a genuine passion for learning it herself. When Qiao Xian mentioned her plans to teach Tao Tao, the girl was thrilled to the point of almost jumping up. She couldn't sleep the entire night due to her excitement. Once she began learning, she displayed immense energy and meticulousness. Tao Tao possessed inherent intelligence that should not have gone to waste. Qiao Xian had no regrets about imparting this skill to her. After all, would it be beneficial for Tao Tao to spend her whole life solely engaged in farming, Household chores, child-rearing, and catering to men's needs? The couple contemplated for a while and finally informed Ms. Fong that Tao Tao was only 16 years old, so she was still quite young. They suggested waiting for another 2 years or so. Should they continue searching within the next 2 years? Perhaps they would find a suitable candidate? If, within the next 2 years, they couldn't find an ideal match, they would settle for someone who met about 60% to 70% of their expectations. Ms. Fong understood that this matter couldn't be resolved immediately, so she sighed and had no other choice. However, when Tao Tao learned about it, she blushed and secretly confided in Qiao Xian that she didn't want to get married so early. Hearing this, Qiao Xian took the opportunity to have a heart-to-heart conversation with her. She encouraged Tao Tao to express her thoughts about marriage to her mother. Regardless of the family in question, it was crucial for Tao Tao to genuinely like the potential match. She could also explore more frequently. With business in the province, she could visit and see if there was anything she could gain from it. However, she had to be cautious and not easily fall prey to deception. When venturing out in the provincial city, she shouldn't go alone. He proceeded to enlighten her about the tricks employed by swindlers and scoundrels. Tao Tao felt a bit dizzy and even more embarrassed. Nevertheless, she nodded earnestly. Fifth sister-in-law was correct. This was her personal matter. How could she not take it seriously? It would determine the course of her life. Even though Qi was not present, Qiao Xian couldn't resist the urge to venture into the mountains. However, she felt too bashful to bring it up. Observing this, Yunduan inwardly chuckled. He intended to take her on a mountain hike, stating that it would be a way for her to relax. Qiao Xian was thrilled. This was the season for an abundance of bamboo shoots, mushrooms, and ripe wild fruits, making it an opportune time to gather them. The mountains were teeming with countless wild fruits and berries, many of which lacked proper names. They were simply referred to in the local dialect, casually and nonchalantly. However, these wild fruits had delightful flavors. They were tangy and sweet, juicy and succulent, soft and sweet, or possessed a unique refreshing taste. Every ripening season, they enticed numerous children from the village to venture into the mountains for picking. Of course, the village children usually didn't stray too far into the mountains. Given Qiao Xian's ability to cultivate anything within her space, she planned to grow some fruit trees and shrubs as well. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1060 Things. It would be incredibly convenient to have access to these fruits whenever she desired. Additionally, there were an array of fresh and sweet raspberries and marchberries. There were also ground twists, milk fruits, goat milk fruits, ground loquats, sour dates, glutinous rice noodles, cold rice lumps, and more. Despite their unassuming appearance, being wild and hailing from the mountainous areas, they were often overlooked. Yet their taste was truly delightful. Since she had the ability to cultivate within her space, why not take advantage of it? In the future, she could enjoy these fruits at any time and even bring them along. Just the thought of it filled her with joy. Qiao Xian pondered which excuse she should employ to venture into the mountains when Shao Yunduan brought it up. Although it was merely a hike, she would have the final say on the route once they entered the mountains. However, Shao Yunduan was no longer the same person he once was, so Ms. Fong disagreed with his proposal. Nevertheless, witnessing Shao Yunduan's excitement, she realized how precious his return was. She didn't know when he would have the opportunity to return again, so she couldn't bear to turn him down. Thus, she instructed Shao Dalong, Shao Sanlang, Yang Xiaoni, Tao Tao, and others to accompany him and not venture too deep into the mountains or stay there for too long. Afterward, she hurriedly made her way back. She even contemplated enlisting a few young men from the village to accompany them. Qiao Xian sighed inwardly. Shao Yunduan found himself caught between laughter and tears. "Mom, you don't have to do this. I'm not that clueless. I grew up in the village and have been to the mountains countless times. You're exaggerating." However, Ms. Fong insisted. "You're not the same as before. You're not the same as before. You used to stumble, but now you can't afford to stumble. What if something unfortunate happens? No, 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 I'm just being silly. It doesn't count. Shao Dalong and Shao Sanlang concurred with Ms. Fang's sentiments. She gazed at Shao Yunduan as if he were a delicate treasure. Qiao Xian couldn't contain her amusement any longer, and playfully winked at Shao Yunduan. The young official, the hope of the entire village, truly lived up to his noble status. How could she possibly compare? In the end, despite Shao Yunduan's insistence, they decided against summoning the villagers. However, Shao Dalong, Shao Sanlang, Yang Xiaoni, and the others were required to accompany them, and were prohibited from staying in the mountains for too long. Shao Yunduan had no choice but to agree. As they ventured into the mountains, Qiao Xian's spirit soared. She found delight in every corner, and wore an unwavering smile. Tao Tao, Yang Xiaoni, and the others were equally joyous. It's been so long since I last came here. I've missed it dearly. You're absolutely right. It's a shame Qi isn't here. When Qi returns, fifth brother and fifth sister-in-law, you must come again with us. Laughter and conversation filled the air. They gathered wild bamboo shoots and collected an abundance of mushrooms. They also plucked ripe wild fruits and berries, savoring their flavors. Although they refrained from hunting wild animals, they found their experience to be immensely fulfilling. Qiao Xian snapped off branches of wild fruits and berries, placing them into her space. She had acquired everything she desired. Upon returning home, she planned to allocate time to neatly plant each item. The prospect left her feeling immensely satisfied. During this season, wild mushrooms were not particularly abundant, but there was an abundance of bamboo shoots in various sizes. Once blanched, the bamboo shoots would be shredded or cut into finger-length segments. Stir-fried with preserved vegetables and cured meat, they made for a truly exquisite delicacy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1061. That's my feeling. The chestnut bamboo shoots were delicately sliced and used to make a refreshing soup, boasting a delightful sweetness. As for the other dishes, they were sliced and soaked in clear water overnight, ready to be stir-fried with chili peppers and meat slices. These dishes were truly unparalleled. Shao Dalong, being an upright man, remembered his mother's instructions. Sensing that it was almost time, he urged everyone to head home. However, Qiao Xian, Shao Yunduan, and the others were not ready to leave. Since Yang Xiaoni and the rest rarely ventured into the mountains, they had become engrossed in gathering plants and were determined to fill their sacks and baskets. Occasionally, they startled pheasants and wild rabbits that were foraging in the grass and woods. Helplessly, they watched as the pheasants took flight, flapping their wings, and the wild rabbits swiftly vanished from sight. Sighs of regret filled the air. They finally understood why others envied them when they returned with a bountiful catch of wild animals. Such was the current sentiment. Helpless yearning welled up within them, but they couldn't attain what they desired. It was simply an insatiable craving. Of course, Qiao Xian felt this most profoundly. After all, others were limited in the number of pheasants and wild rabbits they encountered. Unlike her, she had witnessed countless. There were not only pheasants and wild rabbits, but also hares, wild sheep, wild boars, and more. In the past, with Qi by her side, she could easily secure a successful hunt if she led the way. Once they had enjoyed themselves and amassed a fruitful harvest, they made their way back to the village. Ms. Fong stood at the village entrance, eagerly awaiting their return. Upon seeing their joyous expressions, she held back her reproachful words. Never mind. She wouldn't dampen the mood this time, but she wouldn't allow it to happen again in the future. Shao Yunduan, not wanting his mother to worry, took Qiao Xian to explore the nearby hills for 3 or 4 days. The two of them strolled hand in hand, undisturbed by anyone, enjoying their time amidst the lush green mountains. Each day, Qiao Xian would request her family to gather the ingredients, and if needed, Songshi would travel to the city to purchase them. Qiao Xian would then cook 2 of her finest dishes, and they would savor the flavors together. Sesame chicken, ginger-infused duck, pickled vegetables, conch broth, lion's head meatballs, braised pork, seafood soup, braised fish head, braised pig's trotters, and many more dishes made dinner a delightful anticipation for the family each day. In the blink of an eye, it was time for Shao Erlang's wedding. Ms. Niu, being a playful character, had conveniently fallen ill 2 days prior, claiming she couldn't do anything and needed to stay in bed. Shao Erlang knew that his mother had reservations about his marriage to Mei Qing, so he attempted to ask her to handle the matter for him. However, Ms. Niu scolded him, saying, "You have a wife now and you've forgotten about your mother. I showered you with love for nothing. Can't you see that I'm unwell and unable to move? Do you expect me to take care of it for you? Do you want me to exhaust myself to death? If you really want me to handle it, fine. Why don't we change the date? We can reschedule it. Once I'm better, we can manage it together." Shao Erlang's expression darkened, and he fell silent. All right. Ms. Yen paid no mind to the situation. She had been in charge of most things from the beginning to the end. If there was something she didn't understand, she sought assistance from Ms. Fang. Seeing Ms. Fang's willingness to help, the villagers enthusiastically lent their support, ensuring everything went smoothly. Since Ms. Niu insisted on feigning illness, they let her be. As the bride and groom were soon to be married again, there was no need to be overly fussy about the arrangements. In fact, they didn't bother with any elaborate preparations at all. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1062, Shao Erlang's marriage. There were only about 10 tables set up for the wedding banquet, where their neighbors, close relatives, and friends were treated to a meal. Thus, on the day of the bridal escort, everything proceeded as usual. Ms. Niu was so furious that she didn't even make an appearance. Initially, Mei Qing felt a bit disgusted, but when Ms. Yen brought her dinner, she reassured her with a smile. "Cousin, no second sister-in-law, let her be. Our mother-in-law has always been like this. The more she goes overboard, the guiltier second brother feels towards you, and that's a good thing. I don't believe we can't handle her." Ms. Yen winked at her, and Mei Qing smiled back, feeling much better. Even if Shao Erlang couldn't handle the situation, he would undoubtedly feel remorseful after being mistreated today, making it easier to deal with Ms. Niu. Mei Qing firmly held Ms. Yan's hands and sighed, saying, "Jiao, you and I are family now. I will never forget your kindness. Let's live a good life from now on." Ms. Yen understood that Mei Qing was referring to her own family, so she replied with a smile, "Sister-in-law, don't say that. There is no need to mention kindness. Honestly, if second brother were to marry someone else, why shouldn't it be you, sister-in-law? We're already familiar with each other, aren't we?" "That's true." The two of them exchanged smiles and glanced at each other. Even though Ms. Niu was ill and absent, it didn't impact the overall situation. Second marriages were not highly valued to begin with, so Mei Qing didn't feel too aggrieved. Even if others gossiped, their words held limited weight. Mei Qing was no longer the naive and ignorant young lady from her teenage years. She regarded her dignity with great seriousness and paid no heed to gossip. Initially, she thought she would spend the rest of her life as a widow, living cautiously under the care of her brothers, sisters-in-law, and nephews. Although they didn't despise her, their fondness for her was limited. She had to tread carefully each day, enduring inevitable hardships. Even if Mei Qing were to find another family to marry, it was unlikely that she would have a good match. At best, it would be a compromise. Unexpectedly, she had managed to secure such a favorable marriage. Even if her mother-in-law feigned illness and skipped the wedding banquet, Mei Qing had no objections. At this point, Mei Qing could officially be considered a member of the second branch of the family. Ms. Niu was indeed a troublemaker. Mei Qing could endure it, but the more she endured, the more arrogant Ms. Niu became. Then one day, Shao Erlang saw Ms. Niu kneeling in the yard as a form of punishment. Shao Erlang was furious. He looked at the wounds on Mei Qing's hands and demanded to know how Ms. Niu had treated her so poorly. Ms. Yen refused to disclose the details, but she hinted at Shao Erlang to ask his own children. Ms. Niu had influenced them not to like Mei Qing either, so when they heard their father's question, they complained bitterly. However, they were just children and lacked shrewdness. Shao Erlang managed to coax them with a few words. Shao even shared with Shao Erlang how her grandmother had punished her stepmother, further fueling Shao Erlang's fury. He insisted on splitting up the family that very day. Ms. Yen was delighted. It would be wonderful if they could indeed separate. Ms. Niu resisted, but she dared not mistreat Mei Qing any longer. Shao Erlang warned that if he discovered any mistreatment again, they would definitely go their separate ways. As the eldest son, Shao Erlang had lived with Ms. Niu and his younger brother after the separation. However, if they were to separate now, Mei Qing would become the mistress of the family, which would bring about a significant change. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1063. Dodging. They also requested that Shao Erlang teach them a lesson. Ms. Niu was forbidden from interfering any further, so they asked Mei Qing to discipline them. If they dared to be rude again, they would report it to him, and he would take appropriate action. Shao Wan and Shao Xianwen were still young, and, after being frightened by their biological father, they didn't even dare to cry, let alone cause trouble. Mei Qing may not have been particularly fond of them, but she knew she had to treat them well. After all, they were Shao Erlang's eldest son and daughter. If Shao Erlang found out that she mistreated them, she wouldn't be able to stay in the family. If she were to get divorced and return to her maternal family, it was doubtful if she would even be welcomed there anymore. Mei Qing and Ms. Yen, being cousins and sisters-in-law, had a good relationship and could stand up to Ms. Niu, their mother-in-law. It became difficult for Ms. Niu to cause trouble and create conflicts all day long. She couldn't even manage her own affairs, let alone find fault with others. That would come later, once Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan had already moved to the capital. On Mei Qing's wedding day, Ms. Fang and her daughter-in-law also attended the wedding banquet. Thanks to Shao Yunduan, Ms. Fang was in the spotlight. Whether they knew each other or not, people approached her to greet and exchange pleasantries. Even Ms. Su and Yang Xiaoni were surrounded by an enthusiastic crowd. Where was Qiao Xian? Ms. Fang had asked her to leave after making an appearance. If she were here, even more people would be vying for her attention. Qiao Xian was happy to step aside. As for Tao Tao, she didn't appear at all. As for the male guests, Shao Yunduan only approached them once they were seated. Although they were not close relatives, they were still from the same community, so it would have been inappropriate for them not to attend. Ms. Niu was too sick to attend, otherwise, she would have been disgusted. But even if she felt disgusted, she couldn't drive away the first section of the family. It would be giving the second section of the family face by coming. If they didn't come, it would be even more embarrassing for the second section of the family in the future. Ms. Niu was right. One should never hit a smiling person. Ms. Fang agreed with a smile. As long as she came forward to greet them, she could chat with anyone, whether she knew them or not. As time went on, Ms. Fang started to feel annoyed, but she had to tolerate it. In her daily life, she had argued with the head of the family quite a bit. No one was allowed to be arrogant or look down on others, including her. Unexpectedly, as she spoke those words, some people felt that something was amiss, seeing that Ms. Fang was so amicable. Ms. Niu's cousin, Ms. Niu Sr., had been sitting next to Ms. Fang with a smile since she arrived. Somehow, upon hearing that Shao Yunduan had been appointed as an official in the capital, she said with a smile, "Old Master Primus is so far away from the capital, and it's not good to have no one from our place. Mr. Primus, don't forget the customs of your hometown." Ms. Fang was taken aback and responded with a smile, "My fifth son is not that kind of person. He will never forget his roots." "I'm not forgetting my roots. Wouldn't it be nice to have a fellow villager with me? Someone I can feel close to within a region?" Seeing Ms. Fang looking at her, Ms. Niu Sr. grew excited and said with a smile, "My daughter is only 16 years old this year, and she's beautiful, well-mannered and hardworking. Sister-in-law, all you have to do is give your approval and let her come to your house tomorrow. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1064. Targeted. It is indeed a blessing for her to have the opportunity to follow Mr. Primus and take care of him. It doesn't matter whether she becomes the second or third section of the family. Sister-in-law, you're a practical person, and Mr. Primus is also kind-hearted. He would never mistreat her. When my youngest daughter was little, a traveling Taoist priest even bestowed his fortune upon her. He said that she would encounter a benefactor in her life, and would surely have a noble son in the future. She will be blessed abundantly. Haha, sister-in-law, look, this is not what she should be doing. Speaking of nobles, who could be more distinguished than the Primus? Ms. Niu Sr. didn't believe that Ms. Fong wouldn't be concerned about the Primus child, since his wife hadn't given birth yet. Her daughter was blessed and leading a good life. Ms. Niu Sr. wasn't worried that she wouldn't be enticed. Ms. Niu Sr. felt quite proud. Surprisingly, Ms. Niu Sr. wasn't the only visitor to Ms. Fong today. Everyone witnessed how the Shao family transformed from an ordinary farming family into an illustrious one. Shao Yunduan, who believed he was fortunate to be chosen as the first Primus, couldn't attribute it solely to luck. Yang Xiani's former siblings and sister-in-law were so ashamed that they wanted to bang their heads against the wall. Initially, everyone was resentful and envious, but now their envy was complete. Since the officials had already gone to the capital, what was there to doubt? While they were envious, they couldn't help but feel excited. If they could establish some connections, would they have to worry in the future? Many people had their eyes on Shao Yunduan the moment he returned. The Primus held an official position in the capital, so it was only natural for him to take a concubine. Furthermore, since Ms. Qiao hadn't given birth, how could she tolerate someone else? If their own daughter gives birth to a son before him, they would become the eldest son. Why should they fear not receiving affection? While others might have had similar intentions, they didn't dare to voice them aloud. However, Ms. Niu Sr. couldn't contain herself and said it with a smile. As Ms. Niu Sr. spoke, she even mentioned all the traveling Taoists, though no one knew if they were genuine or not. Nevertheless, everyone worried that Ms. Fong might believe them, so they began recommending their own daughters. My daughter is also highly capable and knows how to take care of others. My daughter is renowned for her beauty in our village. All the girls who marry from our family are well-mannered. My youngest daughter will undoubtedly be the same. And as for my household, observing this, Ms. Niu Sr. became both angry and anxious. She exclaimed, "You're all so wicked. I was the first to suggest it. Why are you fighting over it? It's utterly unreasonable. Why would others fear her words? Oh, Auntie Niu, it's you who's being unreasonable. So what if you mentioned it first? Claiming it's your house? What a joke." "That's correct. We should decide whose daughter it is. If you're afraid of comparisons, then don't say anything. My daughter is the finest. Our family is excellent." Ms. Niu Sr. was so furious that she nearly got into a physical altercation. Ms. Fong became so angered that she burst into laughter and snapped, "Stop arguing. It's Erlang's day today, and we're all here for the wedding banquet and celebration. Why are you making such a ruckus?" Immediately, someone flattered her. After all, she's sister-in-law Fong. What she said makes sense. Absolutely. The others didn't want to be left behind. That's right, that's right. If you have something to say, say it. It's unsightly to be so noisy. Absolutely correct. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1065. Humiliation. Ms. Fong sneered. "My fifth son and Ms. Qiao are content with their relationship and have no intentions of taking concubines. Don't assume that my fifth son lacks such intentions. I have no such intentions either. Your daughter is lovely. Tell her to become the daughter-in-law of another family. Don't utter such words in my presence. If anyone says otherwise, don't blame me for scolding you. I have a temper, and you're well aware of it. If anyone desires to be scolded, go ahead and speak up." Ms. Fong had always been sharp-tongued. Everyone exchanged glances and fell silent. Many people were merely trying to join in the conversation without genuine intentions. Upon hearing Ms. Fang's words, they realized they couldn't attain what they desired. so they felt relieved and refrained from saying more. However, Ms. Niu Sr. was different. She harbored deep envy towards the Shao family's first section. They possessed an official position, acquired land, and even donated fertile land and substantial amounts of silver to the village. How much personal wealth did they possess to give away 400 acres of land and hundreds of taels of silver without hesitation? For instance, at the previous banquet, there was an abundance of poultry and fish. The gentry and elderly masters showered them with countless gifts, worth a significant sum alone. In the future, even if their family didn't engage in farming, they could enjoy meals with white rice and meat. They wouldn't have to skimp on cooking vegetables, oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. What an enviable life. Furthermore, at the banquet, her daughter had developed feelings for Shao Yunduan. Come to think of it, when the second section of the family celebrated their daughter-in-law's marriage, her family attended the wedding banquet as well. Her daughter and Shao Yunduan must have met on that occasion, which was even better. They were acquainted with each other. Ms. Niu Sr. believed that the Shao family had no relation to others, but her own family was different. She was a relative of the Shao family, so no matter what she said, Ms. Fong wouldn't refuse her. While everyone else remained silent, Ms. Niu Sr. couldn't help but giggle and jokingly say, "Sister-in-law Fong, don't get angry. This is a serious matter. If the Primus doesn't have any wives or concubines, won't it be embarrassing for him? We know each other well in the village, so doesn't that mean—" "Shut up." Ms. Fang's expression turned stern before Ms. Niu Sr. could finish her sentence. She sneered. "If you want your daughter to become someone's concubine, there might be someone willing to have her. Don't say such things to me. I don't want her." Embarrassment washed over Ms. Niu Sr., her face alternating between red and white. Angered, she retorted, "Sister-in-law, you're being too dismissive. Don't think so highly of yourself. Will the Primus never take a concubine in his entire life?" Ms. Fong replied firmly, "That's right, he will never take a concubine in his entire life. My fifth son is not the kind of person who forgets his roots or his identity after becoming the Primus. Why should he take a concubine?" Gritting her teeth, Ms. Niu Sr. warned, "Sister-in-law, remember what you've said. Don't contradict yourself in the future." Ms. Fong reassured, "Don't worry, I won't." Ms. Niu Sr. sneered. What if Ms. Niu Sr. didn't dare to voice her thoughts about Qiao Xian not giving birth, so she abruptly stood up and left. Despite her anger, she remained rational. If she dared to utter those words, Ms. Fong would definitely slap her. And she certainly didn't dare to retaliate. Ms. Fong cast a disdainful glance at her departing figure. What nonsense! If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1066. Rejection. Ms. Yin happened to come over and greeted her with a smile. Everyone let out a sigh of relief and forgot about the matter. Ms. Niu Sr. was humiliated in front of everyone, so who would dare to talk about it? They didn't even dare to do so anymore. But some people did not give up and went to Ms. Fong in private to boast about their daughter, saying that they could bring their daughter to show Ms. Fong, so it was fine if Ms. Fong was not satisfied. Ms. Fong turned them all down. She did not have such thoughts at all. Why was she looking at his daughter? How wicked! Shao Yunduan had told her in detail that although he was an official in the capital, he was just a minor official. A minor official like him had at least 1,000 people in the capital, so it was nothing. She was even less arrogant. It was still too early for her son to go further in the future. Qiao Xian knew about it too, so she took Shao Yunduan's hand and sobbed. "Do you think I didn't give birth to a son or a daughter for you? Look, so many people feel that you've suffered and are rushing to give you a new wife." Shao Yunduan was caught between laughter and tears as he comforted her with his arms around her. "We don't care about anyone else, but you can care about me. I don't know how to do that. Besides, we have only been married for a short time, so we don't have any children yet. Don't let one's imagination run wild." Qiao Xian got teary-eyed and grabbed the chink in one's armor. "What if we have been married for 2 or 3 years and have no children? Then you are going to take concubines and make me angry?" No. Of course not. I think that's what you meant earlier. Absolutely not. Shao Yunduan kissed her face, lips, eyebrows, and refused to let go. You are my wife, so of course I only want you. What if we don't have any children in the future? Don't talk nonsense. Shao Yunduan covered her mouth. There will not be any. Qiao Xian was not convinced. What if? There's no what if. Bah. Qiao Xian was not convinced. What if? What if? That was not something that could be controlled by human power. What if? The more Qiao Xian thought about it, the more confused she became. She was pretending to cry, but she actually ended up squeezing out a few tears. Shao Yunduan was caught between laughter and tears. What if? But no buts. If there's no if, could it be that you think I'm not working hard enough? Why don't I work harder from today onwards? I didn't mean that. I think you are. You're being unreasonable. Shao Yunduan's heart softened as he gazed at her. He tenderly kissed her soft hair and spoke with a gentle smile. All right, let's just assume that I've been unreasonable, and you're no longer angry, okay? Qiao Xian pursed her lips, realizing that it wouldn't be productive to dwell on negative thoughts. She wasn't ill or in any immediate danger, so why worry about the unlikely possibility of not having a child? It was important not to get stuck in a dead-end mentality. Determined, she grabbed the front of his shirt, looking at him with a mix of affection and determination. You promised not to take a concubine. I won't be swayed by any reasoning. If you can't keep that promise, I won't stay. She meant it. She was prepared to end their relationship if necessary. Shao Yunduan felt a sense of relief and nodded without hesitation. I understand. He truly did understand. He didn't dare to provoke her further. Qiao Xian's face lit up with a smile. However, Shao Yunduan sensed that he needed to address Qiao Xian's concerns about the future. He wanted to help her let go of her worries about the what-ifs. And so he decided to put extra effort into their physical intimacy, hoping to prove to Qiao Xian that her fears were unfounded. He wanted to show her that there was no reason for her to worry about the what-if scenario she imagined. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1067. Leaving home. Qiao Xian fought back tears, struggling with conflicting emotions and contemplating self-sabotage. The joyful days they had spent together seemed to have vanished in an instant, and now it was time for Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan to return to the capital. Despite Ms. Fang's reluctance, she had to bid them farewell with a forced smile. Qiao Xian assured Shao Yunduan that she would return before the new year, bringing some relief to her family. However, he wouldn't be able to come back for the time being. This reassured them. Under the cover of dawn, Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian left Shouting Village. They avoided the land officer and the elders, as neither of them desired such a heartbreaking scene. After exchanging pleasantries with County Magistrate Yu in the county city, they continued their journey to the provincial capital accompanied by the original honor guard. As the sun set, they entered the city. The honor guard settled in the local post house, while Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan made their way to the Yuezhing family residence. First, Madame greeted them with joy. She had already arranged for the yard to be cleaned, allowing them to move in immediately. Yuezhing Shao smiled and said, "The fruit saplings were just brought back 2 days ago, so I anticipated that you would arrive in the next couple of days. The seedlings are stored in the cellar, and someone waters their roots every morning. I'm skeptical though. Can they really be successfully planted?" Yuezhing Shao had his doubts. Qiao Xian half-truthfully smiled at him and replied, "Of course. To be honest, after numerous experiments, I've developed something that aids in crop growth. However, the process is quite complex. I read about the delectable southern fruits in books, so I prepared in advance. Now I can finally put them to use. I'm confident they'll work well with dragon fruits and papayas, but am uncertain about the longan fruits, lychees, mangoes, and so on. If they prove to be effective, we'll have a bountiful harvest of fruits next year. I guarantee they'll be highly sought after in this region." Qiao Xian anticipated that people would take notice if she successfully grew plants that were seemingly impossible to cultivate. She had been pondering how to explain her methods. Nevertheless, that was all she would reveal. If someone of high status pressured her into divulging the prescription, she would comply. However, she couldn't guarantee their success. There were no certainties in such matters. Besides, there was a saying, "The master paves the way, but each cultivates their own." This principle applied to all industries. One couldn't expect to master something simply by learning about it. If it were that easy, scholars would effortlessly pass the intermediate exams, which was far from reality. Shao didn't doubt Xiaoxian's words, sharing the same mindset. He smiled and said, "Sister-in-law has never failed before, and she won't fail this time. I can't wait to taste the lychees and longan next year." They both laughed as they spoke. The following day, Shao Yunduan sent letters to the Xie family, the magistrate, and a few local scholars. He then accompanied Qiao to the mountainside to observe the tree planting process. Shao and Xie Jingrong joined them to witness the spectacle. The shipment included 5 types of fruit trees: longan, lychee, mango, grapefruit, and citrus, each with several different varieties. They followed Qiaoxian's meticulous plan and planted everything accordingly. Additionally, there were other fruits like egg fruits, pineapple honey, passion fruits, and mountain bamboo. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1068. Fruit Planting. There were even wampis and Japanese raisin trees among the assortment. Shao's men demonstrated great professionalism. Not only were the trees planted on the mountainside, but Qiaoxian's space was also utilized. Due to the limited time, they hired numerous workers to assist with planting the fruit saplings this time. Their goal was to complete the planting within 3 days. Observing that the dragon fruits and papayas were ripe, Qiaoxian harvested some and shared them with the Xie family, the magistrate, and first madam. They tasted the fruits in a nonchalant manner, appreciating their flavors with casual indifference. The flesh of the fire dragon fruit was thick, sweet, and juicy. The papaya flesh was vibrant, plump, soft, and sweet. These were rare and precious fruits, ensuring that they could be sold at a good price without any concerns. Moreover, these 2 fruits were excellent ingredients for fruit tea and dessert beverages. Their combinations allowed for innovative creations. Qiaoxian visited a few stores to experiment with different recipes, which invigorated and enlightened her. She came up with a few new variations. Shao helped Qiaoxian find several managers and assistants. This time, Qiaoxian and Shao Yunduan took the opportunity to meet and interview the candidates, ensuring they made the right choices. After a thorough selection process, they settled on Steward Zhou and Steward Bai as the stewards, along with a total of 23 servants among the 3 waiters. Following that, they planned to construct a farmhouse on the flat ground at the foot of the orchard, providing accommodation for the staff. This would establish a proper industry. With Shao and First Madam's support, Qiaoxian felt reassured. Time was limited, so they stayed in the provincial city for 4 days before preparing to depart. If all went smoothly, they would reach the capital in early August. When they arrived in the capital, they would officially embark on Shao Yunduan's career as an official. They approached the future with a calm mindset, taking it one step at a time. Shao Yunduan wasn't overly fixated on becoming an official. While it would be ideal if he succeeded, he was also prepared to accept a different path if necessary. Throughout the journey, they mostly admired the scenery along the way, occasionally discussing their plans. During their overnight stays, they found time to explore and savor the local delicacies. Their journey back to the capital was remarkably smooth. They arrived in the bustling city on the 2nd day of August. The streets were filled with people, and a festive atmosphere permeated the air. The shops showcased revolving doors, hanging musical chairs, and colorful decorations, creating a vibrant and beautiful scene. Mooncakes were in abundance, and shop assistants loudly called out to attract customers. Before entering the city, Qiaoxian distributed red packets to the honor guards, who expressed heartfelt gratitude and bid them farewell courteously. Qiaoxian, Shao Yunduan, Songshi Lixia, and Li Qiao returned to their mansion. As they opened the door and stepped inside, Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan exchanged smiles. They were back, and they couldn't help but wonder how they would feel when they had to leave the capital again. Regardless, they still looked forward to the future. Since everything had been organized before they left, the furniture was covered with dust covers. Although they were a bit late, they opened the windows to let fresh air in, removed the dust covers, and retrieved the bedrolls from the cabinet. Laying them out, the few of them swiftly tidied up the house. Tomorrow, they would take their time to thoroughly clean and organize their home. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1069. Returning to the capital. Qiao Xian took some time to inspect the potatoes in the backyard. They had grown remarkably well, appearing vibrant, strong, and lush. It was evident that many small potatoes had developed beneath the soil. Qiao Xian utilized her abilities to enhance their growth, ensuring they thrived better and remained healthier. She had also brought tomato seeds from home, which could be planted next year, although it was a bit late for this season. In addition to potatoes and tomatoes, there were cantaloupes, passion fruits, melons, figs, and more that could be planted in the backyard. The night was calm and peaceful. The following morning, Shao Yunduan went to report at Hanlin Academy. Meanwhile, Qiao Xian, Wuxia, and Qiao cleaned up the yard and the house before venturing out to buy essential household items such as oil, salt, soy sauce, vinegar, firewood, grains, fruits, and vegetables. They even purchased mooncakes and sweet osmanthus wine, preparing for the upcoming holidays. In her spare moments, Qiao Xian found herself pondering about the Qiao family. Her despicable father and Madame Qiao must have returned to the capital, and her father was likely aware of the conflicts between her, Shao Yunduan, and the Qiao family. However, he wouldn't let them off so easily. Now she would wait and see what he would do. When Shao Yunduan arrived at Hanlin Academy, Qiao Hongxi was already aware of it. Having learned his lesson, Qiao Hongxi had become more cautious. He didn't even dare to meet Shao Yunduan privately, fearing that he would demand an even higher price of 4,000 liang. He refrained from spreading rumors about Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan within Hanlin Academy. He had learned the consequences of shooting oneself in the foot. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that he was like a startled bird, frightened by the sound of a bowstring. When Shao Yunduan returned home in the afternoon, Qiao Xian greeted him with a smile. They engaged in conversation for a while, and as Qiao Xian began cooking, Shao Yunduan followed her into the kitchen. The meal they prepared for themselves was simple yet satisfying. They had an abundance of lentils, hairy beans, eggplants, winter melons, loofah, cabbage, and white rice. The vegetables were fresh, and even in the capital, the prices for new produce were quite affordable. The capital differed from other places in terms of its livestock supply. Cows and sheep were regularly transported from the northwest, ensuring a constant availability of beef and mutton, although at a higher price. Nevertheless, they could still indulge in these meats. Qiao Xian sliced the beef and stir-fried it with shredded vegetables, creating a delicious and savory dish. She also prepared a dish where minced meat was stuffed between 2 winter melon slices and steamed, resulting in a light and flavorful treat. Other dishes included stir-fried cabbage with garlic, stir-fried minced meat with beans, and a refreshing loofah soup. The homemade dishes created a calm and cozy atmosphere. After having dinner together, they ventured out to shop once again. The location of their new home was ideal. It was surrounded by lively department stores and night markets, with a nearby lake that made it perfect for an after-dinner stroll. As they walked leisurely, their demeanor naturally shifted. Being husband and wife, their actions subconsciously became more intimate, although they made sure not to draw excessive attention to themselves during the night. A vendor caught their attention with a basket of carnations and sweet osmanthus branches, emitting a captivating fragrance. Qiao Xian couldn't resist and bought a few to bring home. Shao Yunduan held the bouquet for her, examining it closely. He plucked the best pink carnation and delicately placed it on her sideburns. The beautiful flowers complemented her, making her appear even more adorable. Qiao Xian raised her hands and smiled, feeling a lightness in her steps. She looked at Shao Yunduan and sensed a newfound buoyancy within herself. The following morning, when Qiao Xian woke up, it was already late in the morning. Shao Yunduan had already left for his duties at Hanlin Academy. Feeling a sense of tranquility and lacking any disturbances, Qiao Xian smiled, rolled up the blanket, and decided to return to sleep, acknowledging the need to rest her weakened body. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1070, Daily Life. Qiao Xian slowly awakened, realizing it was already close to noon. Li Qiao and Li Xiao efficiently managed the household chores, and even took care of purchasing vegetables. Songshi lazily sat beneath the eaves of the east wing, casually munching on melon seeds to pass the time. As a 7th-grade editor, Shao Yunduan couldn't bring a follower to work. Thus, Songshi had nothing to occupy him after accompanying Shao Yunduan to Hanlin Academy every day. Observing his idle state, Qiao Xian thought about starting a shop or acquiring some land for a business venture. This would provide Songshi with tasks and responsibilities. Otherwise, he would have little to do for extended periods. However, Qiao Xian worried that if he had too much free time, he might be influenced by others and led astray. Being a 10-year-old boy, the dazzling allure of the capital could easily overwhelm him. Given that he was one of Shao Yunduan's men, they couldn't afford to take any risks. Having made up her mind, Qiao Xian planned to discuss with Shao Yunduan the idea of purchasing a small shop to test the waters and determine what kind of business to undertake. Nevertheless, she didn't rely on this venture to generate income. Since Qiao Xian woke up late, she combined breakfast and lunch. However, her appetite was lacking at the moment. Therefore, she asked Li Xiao to prepare a bowl of prawns, meat slices, mushrooms, and vegetables. The wheat in the northern region yielded robust grains, resulting in sturdy handmade noodles. Despite her reduced appetite, Qiao Xian devoured a large bowl of them. It seemed she had expended quite a bit of energy the previous day, warranting some nourishment. Unexpectedly, as she finished her hearty meal and admired the flowers and plants in the courtyard to aid digestion, a knock echoed at the courtyard door. Songshi finally had a task to attend to. He eagerly rushed to open the door with great enthusiasm. An elderly woman accompanied by a maidservant stood at the door. She exuded a sense of dignity, but her expression held a hint of arrogance. With disdain in her eyes, she looked at Songshi. Though inwardly irritated, Songshi refrained from throwing a tantrum. He couldn't afford to delay matters concerning the masters. Suppressing his displeasure, he put on an obsequious smile and asked, "May I ask where you are from, madam?" The old woman snorted. "I am from the Qiao family. Your madam knows who I am. Tell her to come out." Songshi was taken aback, but managed to maintain a lazy expression. Not wanting to make any mistaken moves, he replied, "Which Qiao family? The one on West 6th Street in Liuji Alley?" The old woman sneered. "Yes, that's the one." Song's smile immediately vanished as he nonchalantly said, "Very well, please wait. I will report this." He abruptly closed the courtyard door, paying no mind to the old woman's reaction or feelings. Rushing over, he informed Qiao Xian, "Madam, the Qiao family is shameless. They have come again. What should we do?" Qiao Xian smiled and replied, "Since they are here, let them in." With a clap of her hands, she turned and walked into the house. It was impossible to ignore them. Ignoring them would only fuel their persistence. Qiao Hongxi must have informed Shao Yunduan about the situation when they encountered each other at Hanlin Academy. The Qiao family had arrived swiftly. Although Songshi had agreed to let them in, he had no intention of disregarding the old woman. He proceeded to open the door. The sudden closure of the door startled the old woman. When she saw Songshi, she glared at him and coldly demanded, "Where is our second miss? The old master and madam specially sent me to convey their message. Yet second miss displays such an attitude? Does she no longer value filial piety or fifth master Shao?" If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1071. What second miss? Songshur felt a surge of anger upon hearing the old woman's words. He sneered and retorted, "Second miss? Who is your second miss? Are you sure you haven't mistaken the address?" The old woman stared at him unwaveringly for a moment before a smile crept onto her face, erasing her arrogant demeanor. "Our second miss bears the surname Qiao and goes by the name Xian. She is your madam. You're such a bother. Hurry up and let me in." This old woman was none other than Auntie Ling, known for her shrewdness. Moreover, she had been testing Qiao Xian just now. Finally, she understood that the Qiao family hadn't been lying. Qiao Xian truly intended to sever ties with the Qiao family. Not even the old master or madam had the authority to do so. Auntie Ling couldn't help but feel a mix of sorrow and anger for her mistress. In truth, her mistress was deeply hurt. Upon hearing that Shao Yunduan had achieved a high position as the primus and was esteemed by the emperor, and that Qiao Xian had saved the peony flower entrusted by the empress dowager to the emperor, her condition worsened, and she lost her appetite for several days. How could she not harbor resentment? Of course, she resented her. When Qiao Xian's fiancé was poisoned, Madame Qiao couldn't bear to stand idly by, and wanted to intervene. But now, Qiao Xian had achieved such remarkable success. What had Madame Qiao stirred up before? It would have been better if she hadn't stirred anything up at all. That would have meant granting Qiao Xian a bright future. And Madame Qiao was fortunate not to have choked on her own blood. Now, hearing that the main household had severed all ties with them, Madame Qiao couldn't even put on airs in front of Qiao Xian anymore. Auntie Ling had personally witnessed how Qiao Xian and the others managed to afford a decent house in the capital shortly after their arrival. Although it was small, it was well maintained and situated in a good location, intensifying her distress even further. This second miss was truly flourishing. Not everyone could afford a house in the capital, even if one became an official. Auntie Ling had to admit that, with his meager official salary, Shao Yunduan wouldn't be able to afford a house in the capital for another 20 years. As Auntie Ling contemplated the rewards bestowed upon Qiao Xian and her husband by the palace, she couldn't fathom how a mere residence compared. The more she dwelled on it, the angrier she became. Her heart ached for Madame Qiao. Refusing to acknowledge that his mistress was the Qiao family's second miss, Songshur retorted bluntly, "If you're truly from the Qiao family, then you should know that they hold nothing but disdain for our madam, and have already severed all ties with her. If you're here to find someone, go ahead. But don't speak of finding the Qiao family's second miss here. If you're looking for the second miss, I'm sorry to inform you that you've come to the wrong place. I cannot allow you to enter." Auntie Ling couldn't contain her frustration and sneered, "You won't let me in? Such audacity from a mere servant. Let the neighbors be the judge of your logic." If Songshur thought he could intimidate Auntie Ling, he clearly didn't know how long she had been by Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan's side. With a smile, she added, "Very well, go ahead and raise your voice as loud as you can. I'll make sure my wife presents everyone with the evidence she has in black and white. Oh, and let me remind you that my wife doesn't tolerate injustice, and she just might report this to the Heavenly Mansion office to ensure they're aware of it. What do you think? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1072. Keep it short. A complaint against my fifth master's filial piety was brought before the emperor by an imperial censor, but it was swiftly dismissed by the emperor. Were you aware of that? Songshur remarked. Auntie Ling was left speechless. She inwardly cursed the cunning girl and the sly servant. She didn't know where they found such crafty individuals. Auntie Ling dared not cause a scene. Shamelessness seemed to run in both her and the Qiao family. The Qiao family was undoubtedly at fault. Well, it couldn't be said that the entire Qiao family was at fault, but the members of the main household were simply unaware of the wickedness of Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan. They had fallen into their trap. Auntie Ling, being resourceful, suppressed her anger and maintained a serious expression. "I am here to visit your madam." Songshur continued smiling. "Why didn't you say so earlier?" Auntie Ling, with Yuzan by her side, Auntie Ling entered, catching sight of Qiao Xian, who greeted them with a smile. They were all friends of Madame Qiao. This time, Auntie Ling didn't dare to take it too seriously. She bowed to Qiao Xian and Yuzan. "Greetings, second miss." Qiao Xian glanced at her and sneered. "Second miss? Who are you calling? If you're searching for the second miss, you've come to the wrong door. Songshi, please escort our guest out." Auntie Ling felt suffocated. It seemed that everyone in the Shao family shared the same temperament. "Greetings to Mrs. Shao." Qiao Xian responded curtly, "Very well. Why are you here? Get to the point." Since arriving at her own residence, Auntie Ling's mood had been disrupted. She no longer had the inclination for small talk. So Auntie Ling spoke straightforwardly. "Mrs. Shao, you're aware of it, right? Third Master and Third Madam have returned to the capital, and what they did to you doesn't count. They are unaware of the truth and acting out of anger. Mrs. Shao, don't feel aggrieved. Third Master and Third Madam will provide you with an explanation. Mrs. Shao, please come back home with me. We are family, and there shouldn't be such distance between us. You are the biological daughter of Third Master, and it doesn't reflect well for him to disown his own daughter and parents. Mrs. Shao, are you not afraid of being looked down upon and tarnishing your son-in-law's reputation?" Qiao Xian listened quietly and responded with a smile. "This document bears the signatures of your Third Master's mother and 2 brothers. What's this? Your Third Master refuses to acknowledge it? That is unfilial. Don't be so shameless in front of me. I'm not falling for it. Don't you understand? If my husband hadn't achieved the position of intermediate primus and gained the Emperor's favor, if I hadn't made contributions and received rewards from the Emperor and the palace, would your Third Master and Third Madam have approached me for acknowledgement? Or would they have preferred to keep their distance, fearing that we would take advantage of them?" When Qiao Xian pointed out the truth, Auntie Ling couldn't help but feel a sense of embarrassment. "What Mrs. Shao said is what? Isn't it the truth?" Qiao Xian's expression turned stern as she sneered. "I'm extending you some courtesy, so why are you putting on airs in front of me? Go back and tell them that the slap I endured was not without consequences. Do they really want me to come back? Fine, I'll return and demand that Qiao Hongxi publicly apologize and have your old master's 2 brothers apologize to me as well. And resolve the matter with the Tian family for me too. Qiao Hongxi still owes us 4,000 liang, so tell him to pay up. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1073, Guilty. Auntie Ling grew increasingly annoyed by Qiao Xian's words. "Why are you doing this?" Qiao Xian sneered. "You've already done it, so why are you suddenly afraid of me? When did you become so timid? That's not like Madame Qiao." Auntie Ling was left even more speechless. Qiao Xian sarcastically remarked, "What did Madame Qiao do back then, and why did I end up in the water? Auntie Ling, do you think I know or not?" Auntie Ling's expression changed. "Second miss, don't spout nonsense. Madame has never harmed you." Qiao Xian smiled even brighter. "When did I say she harmed me? By the way, I'm starting to suspect that you're feeling guilty. I'm just angry that you let your imagination run wild and falsely accused Madame. Second miss, you're just shifting blame. Forget it, forget it. I can't force you to acknowledge it. I'll have Old Master and Madame personally invite you later. See if you can bear that. They're the ones who disown their own bloodline, so why can't I accept it?" Qiao Xian said curiously. "Also, don't just focus on the benefits my husband and I have received. The Tian family is a formidable force. Have you forgotten about them? The Emperor has commended and made decisions for me. I saved the Emperor's peony flower, and both the Emperor and the palace have praised and rewarded me. Even if the Tian family despises us to the core, they won't dare to lay a finger on us for at least a year or so. But if they find out about the Qiao family, guess who the Tian family will direct their anger towards? Can you handle that?" Auntie Ling's expression slightly changed. Her eyes flickered, and she lowered her head in silence. Of course, the Qiao family had considered this possibility, but they didn't dwell on it too much. Hearing Qiao Xian's words, Auntie Ling couldn't help but feel a tinge of fear. Qiao Xian's eyes were filled with disdain. She knew that they were all cut from the same cloth. People who only cared about their own benefits and refused to share any risks. It wouldn't be so easy to deal with them. She smiled. Go back. Don't forget that Qiao Hongxi owes us 4,000 liang. My husband and I have spent a lot of money lately, so we're in a tight spot financially. We're truly destitute, so we can't afford to be indifferent about our reputation. It just so happens that my husband is at Hanlin Academy too. When we see Qiao Hongxi, it'll be convenient to ask him about it. Apparently, Auntie Ling was aware of the 4,000 liang debt as well. She clenched her teeth and said, You're cunning, aren't you? It takes one to know one. Qiao Xian replied with a smile. I learned from the best, didn't I? How did you treat me in the past? And now you want me to be grateful? What a joke. Auntie Ling was left speechless, and she departed in a sorry state. When she arrived home, she didn't want to tell Madame Qiao the truth, fearing that it would aggravate her illness. However, Madame Qiao was astute and didn't take the matter lightly. Auntie Ling couldn't conceal anything during the interrogation. Eventually, she couldn't bear it any longer and revealed the whole story. Madame Qiao leaned against the couch, gasping for breath. That wretched girl. I deeply regret it. Why did I let her get married? Why didn't I eliminate her? Madam, please lower your voice. You can't say such things. Auntie Ling's eyelids twitched as she hastily cautioned her. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1074. The money. They had made a pact to keep this information to themselves, never to be mentioned again. As long as their secret remained hidden, Qiao Xian would lack any evidence. So what if they stayed silent? Having been away from the main house for countless years, with numerous inhabitants residing there, any whispers would undoubtedly create a stir. Madame Qiao's complexion grew pale, contorted with a mix of comprehension and unwillingness. Exhausted from reiterating the same point, she was repeatedly met with harsh realities. Auntie Ling strained to whisper, the 4,000 liang. Before she could finish her sentence, Madame Qiao forcefully swept away the teacups beside her, producing a loud crash. Auntie Ling flinched in surprise. Give it to her. Madame Qiao struggled to suppress the urge to vomit blood, panting with her pale face. 4,000 liang is insignificant. Do you think I cannot afford such an amount? You are truly despicable. Very well, Madame Qiao. Auntie Ling replied, her heart filled with bitter irony. Indeed, 4,000 liang was no trifling sum. When the third old master and third madam returned to the capital, they discovered that the patriarch and his eldest son residing in the main mansion held disdain for them, while Madame Lady Qiao remained indifferent. Whenever the third old master and third madam were absent from the capital, the first old master and second old master would grow closer to Madame Yuezheng. Yet, Madame Qiao could not bear the fact that Madame Lady Qiao continued to turn a blind eye, even when she sensed that the patriarch and his family had swindled them out of a substantial amount of money. Madame meticulously sorted through their belongings, leaving very little behind. Having obtained 4,000 liang to settle her young master's debts only served to deepen her sense of despair. After third madame's recovery from illness, she eagerly prepared to immerse herself in social engagements. They needed to tailor clothes, adorn them with ornaments, purchase rouge and cosmetics from the capital, exchange favors, bestow rewards and dowries upon elder miss, and acquire garments and accessories. Every aspect required money. Second miss displayed such heartlessness. How could young master have fallen for their deception? Why did they even draft that contract? Madame Qiao made a firm decision. She would reclaim Qiao Xian, not because she couldn't bear to part with her, but because she needed to teach her a lesson. However, third old master, Madame Lady Qiao, the patriarch, and the eldest son hesitated. Indeed, what if the Tian family grew infuriated over Qiao Xian? The Qiao family wouldn't be able to endure the consequences. What if they found themselves embroiled in nothing but trouble? It would be incredibly unjust. Moreover, Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan had received rewards from the emperor and the court. They couldn't compel them to relinquish those rewards. Those two individuals possessed the audacity to do as they pleased. They were shameless, but they couldn't refuse them. In summary, bringing her back might not yield any benefits, but it could result in negative repercussions. Under these circumstances, they could wait for half a year or a few months. Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian were aware that her father and stepmother had returned to the capital, yet they didn't come to visit. This was their fault, and they intended to exploit it as a pretext to hold them accountable. Madame Qiao would feign deafness and muteness. Third Old Master felt that something was wrong. He wanted to get her back. He believed that Shao Yunduan would have a promising future, and if he did not admit that now, it would be too late in the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1075, Treat. However, he couldn't guarantee that the Tian family wouldn't hold the Qiao family responsible, despite his brother's assurance. In the end, he had to align with his two brothers and feign ignorance about Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan's return. Madame Qiao grew increasingly frustrated upon hearing this. However, she held no authority over the main mansion and couldn't act as she pleased. Even though she was the mistress at the Qiao family's mansion in the capital, she was the most unfamiliar and powerless mistress. No one cared about her opinions. The following day, Auntie Ling returned the 4,000 liang to Qiao Xian. That night, when Shao Yunduan returned home, Qiao Xian greeted him with a smile. "Let's skip dinner tonight and celebrate at a fine restaurant." Shao Yunduan chuckled. "Darling, you have excellent taste. We've stumbled upon a windfall, and we should celebrate." Thus the two of them, accompanied by Li Xia, Li Qiao and Songshi, headed to a pavilion renowned for its roasted whole lamb and bull head meat. They had a splendid time, spending 200 liang without feeling like they had splurged. After all, the money was acquired effortlessly. Qiao Xian astutely understood that the Qiao family had chosen not to respond to Auntie Ling's visit. With a hint of disdain, she remarked to Shao Yunduan, "Darling, the Tian family remains silent whenever we mention them. They have unknowingly done us a tremendous favor." Shao Yunduan smiled, intentionally avoiding any mention of the Tian family. He had no intention of bringing up the Tian family. After pondering for a moment, he spoke slowly. "However, they can't have everything their way. I should treat Xiao Hongxi and his colleagues from the Hanlin Academy to a meal." Qiao Xian blinked, perplexed by Shao Yunduan's words. "What do you mean?" Shao Yunduan smiled, turning to Qiao Xian, whose eyes glistened with excitement. She beamed. "Darling, you know how to treat your colleagues to a lavish feast. Let's go to an even better restaurant, without worrying about saving money. We can't possibly spend all 4,000 liang." Shao Yunduan laughed. "Darling, you're absolutely right. Indeed, 4,000 liang was far more than Xiao Hongxi could handle. It would surely make him feel overwhelmed." The next day, Shao Yunduan courteously informed his colleagues and selected members of the Hanlin Academy about his plan to treat them to a meal. He invited over 20 individuals and reserved a large private room, spacious enough to accommodate 2 tables. Shao Yunduan chose Chuanxi Restaurant, an upscale establishment in the intermediate range. A sumptuous banquet at a single table cost around 100 liang, excluding drinks. Most of the Hanlin students were financially strapped, unable to afford meat on a daily basis. Some could only afford porridge, pickles, and steamed buns by the end of the month. The idea of dining at a restaurant like Chuanxi was beyond their wildest dreams. Even when invited by colleagues, they would typically settle for small budget-friendly hotels where a meal cost 2 or 3 liang. The majority had never experienced dining at a place like Chuanxi Restaurant. When Shao Yunduan announced his intention to treat everyone at the restaurant, excitement surged through the crowd, instantly endearing him to them. No one complained about Shao Yunduan's proposal. Having recently received a reward from the court before returning to his hometown to pay respects to his ancestors, Shao Yunduan had amassed a considerable sum of money. It was only fitting that he used it for this purpose. If they all partook in this meal, they might have the fortune to experience such a delightful occasion again in the future. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1076. Sigh? Indeed, it was a lavish feast costing 100 liang. The 18 dishes served were all exquisite, including succulent roasted lamb chops, tender hibiscus chicken slices, flavorful shredded pork with Beijing sauce, delightful fourjoy balls, savory braised mutton, stir-fried fish slices, richly braised pork knuckles, and indulgent fried belly with oil. Furthermore, Shao Yunduan displayed great generosity, offering a fine selection of wines. The dishes were presented one by one, and Shao Yunduan smiled, exchanging a few polite words with his guests. They all raised their glasses in gratitude and eagerly began savoring the delicacies. As scholars, they maintained an elegant dining etiquette, yet they wasted no time in savoring each delectable bite. Regardless of their refinement, after spending years in the intermediate office of the Hanlin Academy, one could maintain an air of elegance and detachment as long as their family had the means to support them. Most of them had endured arduous lives, and when given the opportunity to enjoy a high-class banquet, they wouldn't decline in the name of preserving their reputation. Midway through the feast, when everyone had nearly finished their meal, Shao Yunduan stood up and offered a toast to each individual. As the host and a newcomer, it was customary for him to express his respects through toasting. The guests regarded him as a congenial person, humble and respectful towards his seniors. It was a commendable quality. Shao Yunduan also extended an invitation to Qiao Hongxi to join the banquet. Qiao Hongxi initially harbored anger, but the thought of the 4,000 liang left a bitter taste whenever he encountered Shao Yunduan. He had no desire to dine with him at all. However, if he chose to abstain, he would appear petty. Additionally, considering the sum of 4,000 liang had been taken from him, it would be a waste not to attend. Hence, Qiao Hongxi begrudgingly attended. In response, Shao Yunduan showed him due respect. "Brother Qiao, please join us." Shao Yunduan clinked glasses with him and sighed with emotion. "Before Madam Lady Qiao, old master, and the eldest son severed ties with us, we were still in-laws. Brother Qiao, you are my brother-in-law. Though we may not be related by blood, that is the extent of our connection." "Oh yes, I've heard that Brother Qiao's parents have returned to the capital. How are they doing?" "The Qiao family no longer wishes to accept my wife, and Brother Qiao's parents are no longer my father-in-law and mother-in-law. My wife and I will no longer trouble you. We simply wish you good health." The words hung in the air, catching everyone off guard as they realized the implications. Qiao Hongxi was equally taken aback. What? He knew his family desired Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian's return, but they had made it clear they didn't want to comply. However, a sense of unease began to creep over him. He couldn't simply offer a welcoming response. His family had warned him against getting close to them, fearing it might anger the Tian family. Yet he couldn't agree with Shao Yunduan either, or he would be unable to reverse the situation. Before he could formulate a reply, Shao Yunduan let out another sigh, gently patting Qiao Hongxi's shoulder with a smile. "Let's drop this topic. It's for the best. We are all safe and sound." They all forced smiles, raising their glasses in an attempt to shift the focus away from the uncomfortable conversation. "Yes, there's no need to dwell on that. Let's drink. Cheers. Editor Shao knows how to lighten the mood. Come, let's have another toast." Due to censorship concerns, news of the incident spread discreetly. The Qiao family looked down upon Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan, and before Shao Yunduan achieved the rank of intermediate advanced scholar, they had visited Qiao Xian at the doorstep, only to be met with a violent rebuff, resulting in the dissolution of the engagement. However, since the emperor did not hold Shao Yunduan accountable for being unfilial, no one dared to spread rumors that might incite his wrath. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1077. No countering. And when Shao Yunduan broached the subject, A collective desire for reconciliation emerged. A successful resolution would make for a remarkable story as well. However, in the midst of Shao Yunduan's words, Qiao Hongxi remained silent, a stark indication of the Qiao family's attitude toward them. This made everyone hesitant to speak up. They couldn't fathom the Qiao family's irrational behavior. Shao Yunduan and Ms. Qiao had once been in the presence of the emperor, yet they were being treated in such a manner. Furthermore, Third Old Master Qiao, being Ms. Qiao's own father, displayed a cold-hearted demeanor as well. Yes, the Qiao family must be afraid of the Tian family. That should be enough to settle the matter. It was all just a misunderstanding. The Tian family might suppress Shao Yunduan and prevent him from making further advancements, but that would be the extent of it. They wouldn't target the Qiao family over this. The Qiao family was overestimating themselves. They didn't even want their daughter and son-in-law merely due to their uncertainty. They weren't a particularly admirable family. Consequently, everyone's perception of Qiao Hongxi underwent a significant change. Finally comprehending the situation, Qiao Hongxi grew both angry and anxious. Once again, he found himself dumbfounded, feeling utterly helpless. Even if he realized that Shao Yunduan had ulterior motives behind treating him to a meal, he could also surmise that Shao Yunduan had hidden intentions in treating all the members of the Hanlin Academy. Shao Yunduan was setting him up. Yet, what could be done in such a predicament? He had to confer with his own family and make a decision. But even if he acted independently, it was already too late to say anything further. Qiao Hongxi felt an overwhelming sense of annoyance. They silently cursed the couple, convinced that they were being set up. Qiao Hongxi didn't need to ponder much to realize that Shao Yunduan's words had been overheard by everyone present. It was witnessed by all. Even if the Tian family didn't cause trouble for Shao Yunduan in the future, they would never be able to bring him back. Qiao Hongxi grew increasingly annoyed. The more he looked at Shao Yunduan, the more his annoyance intensified. He couldn't help but feel that they were all scheming against him, inwardly mocking him. But it wasn't their fault. If they were in the Qiao family's position, they might not have acted any differently. Feeling trapped in an uncomfortable situation, Qiao Hongxi concluded that he couldn't stay any longer. After a brief while, he excused himself, stating that he needed to leave. Shao Yunduan exchanged a few parting words and bid him farewell. Inside, Shao Yunduan chuckled. It was for the best that Qiao Hongxi departed. His departure indicated a sense of guilt. With him gone, they could freely discuss anything. Indeed, as soon as Qiao Hongxi left, the remaining individuals exchanged knowing glances, their expressions filled with understanding. Someone stepped forward to console Shao Yunduan. Once one person spoke, the others followed suit, offering words of comfort to Shao Yunduan. Shao Yunduan sighed, graciously accepting their kind gestures. He even shared the mistreatment his wife had endured at the hands of Third Old Master and his wife in their hometown. A collective sigh echoed through the group. The Qiao family was truly despicable. No wonder they had severed ties with Ms. Qiao. But Ms. Qiao was fortunate to have Shao Yunduan by her side. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1078. Trapped. Shao Yunduan considered himself fortunate to have a concubine's daughter, who possessed the skill to cure the emperor's beloved peony, and as a result, he received numerous rewards from the court. However, no one could guarantee that the emperor's peony would remain problem-free in the future. Consequently, no one dared to lay a hand on Ms. Qiao, knowing the potential consequences. In any case, Shao Yunduan's return home with his colleagues strengthened their bond of friendship. Upon hearing about the banquet, Qiao Xian couldn't help but laugh, finding it quite satisfying. That's truly gratifying. If the Qiao family ever approaches us again, we won't have to entertain them. Even if they have the audacity to shamelessly seek our help, we can openly refuse. Qiao Hongxi, however, had a completely different perspective. When he returned home, he hesitated for a moment before approaching his father to share the incident. Third Old Master was utterly flabbergasted upon hearing the news. "What are you saying?" Initially, he had wanted to scold his son, but he soon realized that he couldn't. Even if he had been present, he wouldn't have been able to defend himself against Xiao Yunduan's unexpected actions. Angrily, Qiao Hongxi exclaimed, "Dad, Xiao Yunduan is so disrespectful. He's your son-in-law, yet he doesn't show any regard for you." Third Old Master furrowed his brows. He didn't appreciate his son's words. While he hadn't believed it at first, he now couldn't find any excuse to continue deceiving himself. "Very well, you may go and rest," Third Old Master Qiao said, feeling disheartened. He sighed. "Hongxi, when you have free time, strive to work hard and read more books. You need to succeed in the future. I am relying on you for the remainder of my life." Third Old Master Qiao had anticipated that upon his return to the capital, he would secure a 5th-ranked officer position. However, to his dismay, his elder brother only managed to secure him a 7th-ranked position in the Ministry of Architecture, which held little prestige within the capital. Adding to his frustration, the Ministry of Architecture was one of the least esteemed governmental offices among the 6 ministries, offering minimal opportunities for advancement. Realizing this, Third Old Master felt a surge of anger, almost causing him to vomit blood at the thought of the exorbitant amount of money they had spent. But what was the use? When his wife coerced him into asking his elder brother for money, not only did he fail to retrieve a single tael of silver, but he was also scolded by his elder brother. His elder brother claimed to have invested so much effort and begged him for help. Yet Third Old Master's request for money left him dissatisfied. It was a disheartening experience. To make matters worse, his mother somehow discovered the incident and reprimanded him for his lack of compassion. She focused solely on money and failed to acknowledge the efforts his elder brother had made on his behalf. Left with no choice, Third Old Master reluctantly consoled his mother, feeling annoyed by the situation. At his age, he realized that making progress in his own life was unlikely. He could only hope that his son would achieve success. Despite having a daughter and a son-in-law, the situation remained stagnant. Qiao Hongxi unconsciously clenched his fists and declared, "Dad, don't worry. I will undoubtedly rise to the top. Xiao Yunduan is nothing. Just wait and see. He doesn't even deserve to shine my shoes." Third Old Master offered solace and nodded with a smile. "I know you have ambitious goals." The following day, Third Old Master discreetly hired a carriage and made his way to Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan's home. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1079 Third Old Master. The events of the previous night had left Third Old Master restless, unable to sleep well. He couldn't fathom being manipulated in such a manner, especially considering how highly he regarded Xiao Yunduan as a son-in-law. He had invested significant efforts in supporting Xiao Yunduan, and was genuinely concerned about his future. Thus he couldn't understand why Xiao Yunduan had displayed such cold-heartedness. Determined to get to the bottom of the situation, Third Old Master felt a surge of annoyance as he made his way to Qiao Xian and Xiao Yunduan's residence. However, he hesitated to approach them openly, fearing the repercussions from the Tian family. Instead, he discreetly hired a carriage and arrived at the Shao family's home, hoping that Xiao Yunduan had returned from the Hanlin Academy. Upon seeing him at the door, Songshi, who recognized Third Old Master, was taken aback but didn't give him a hard time. In fact, he greeted him politely saying, "Old Master Qiao." He then invited Third Old Master inside, and informed Fifth Young Master and Madam of his presence. As Third Old Master, who had previously held the position of County Magistrate Qiao, glanced around the yard, he noticed the standard 4-part architecture with well-maintained east and west wing rooms. In the middle stood the main room, facing north and south, along with 3 wing rooms, creating a spacious and broad layout. The courtyard boasted a large patio with greenish-gray floor tiles, neatly arranged and adorned with sweet osmanthus, magnolia, crabapple, and other flowers and trees. A path led to the backyard, indicating its existence. The courtyard wasn't overly large, but it wasn't small either. Third Old Master couldn't help but feel a tinge of envy. He inwardly sighed at their good fortune. Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan, newcomers to the capital, managed to afford such a house, an impressive feat deep down. Third Old Master also believed that Qiao Xian had provided them with the money to purchase the house. He had initially anticipated that they would face humiliation and encounter obstacles at every turn, giving him the opportunity to lecture them. However, reality proved otherwise. This left him speechless. Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan didn't find it unusual that Third Old Master Qiao had come to visit. They treated him as an ordinary guest, lacking the familial warmth he had hoped for. Qiao Xian no longer addressed him as father, but rather politely greeted him as Third Old Master Qiao. The same was true for Shao Yunduan. Third Old Master's heart ached. Xian, Third Old Master Qiao, it doesn't seem appropriate for you to address my wife in that manner. After all, our families are no longer connected, and it's important that we maintain some dignity between us, Shao Yunduan interjected calmly. Third Old Master couldn't bear it any longer. He accused Shao Yunduan of ingratitude and heartlessness. With a smile, Qiao Xian inquired, "My husband achieved the rank of cultivated talent through his own abilities and received education from a highly esteemed teacher. Young Master Sigh, a provincial champion and primus, has imparted his vast knowledge to him. What does that have to do with you, Third Old Master Qiao? Did you teach him? How can he be expected to feel grateful?" Shao Yunduan added, "Third Old Master Qiao, if you wish to discuss this matter further, please leave. I don't owe you anything, and neither does my wife. Madame Qiao tried to harm my wife, yet she's still alive and well, isn't she? Since you never treated my wife as your daughter, why don't you uphold your reputation? Are you attempting to be a benevolent father? Or is there something else you're aiming for? I don't need to explain myself to you. You know what you should do." Third Old Master Qiao had come to express his concern and demonstrate his affection, hoping that they would feel guilty and regard him highly. Instead, he was met with mockery. Guilt and kindness were absent. He had misjudged them completely. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1080. Contract. If you insist on being so obstinate, let's see if you can continue to reside in the capital. Don't overestimate yourself. The Emperor is a noble man who doesn't even remember you. He doesn't believe he needs to protect you. We'll see if the Tian family will forgive you. Third Old Master retorted, his frustration evident. Qiao Xian let out an emotional sigh, wishing she had a cell phone at that moment. Suddenly she spoke up. "If we were to return to the Qiao family now, would you risk offending the Tian family for our sake?" Third Old Master stumbled over his words, unable to provide a satisfactory answer. Qiao Xian sneered. "No, you wouldn't, right? Then what are you doing here? How about writing a letter to sever our ties completely? That way, no matter what happens to the Tian family in the future, we won't hinder you in any way." In a hurry, Third Old Master left without saying another word. Qiao Xian felt a sense of triumph, thinking that she had come up with a brilliant idea. She considered including Third Old Master Qiao's name on the letter to make it perfect. She shared this idea with Shao Yunduan, who chuckled, finding his wife's imagination amusing. However, Qiao Xian remained dissatisfied. "It would be perfect. This way, the Qiao family will have no connection to us, and we won't have any hold over them either." She couldn't help but let out a sigh. Deep down, she knew it wouldn't be easy to get her father to put something in writing. The behavior of the Qiao family disgusted her. They were using her father as a means to ensure that the Tian family wouldn't hold a grudge against Shao Yunduan, and that Shao Yunduan would be accepted into the Qiao family. However, they would never admit to it. Third Old Master had the audacity to assert confidently, "We are your family, and we're supporting you for your own good." It sickened her. Shao Yunduan nodded. "That's a good idea. I'll figure out a way to persuade Third Old Master Qiao to put it in writing." Qiao Xian was taken aback, finding it hard to believe. "Really?" Shao Yunduan smiled, reassuring her. "You won't know until you give it a try." Qiao Xian's eyes lit up with excitement. She nodded eagerly. "Darling, your ideas never disappoint. I'll be eagerly waiting. With a smile and seeking some encouragement and rewards, Shao Yunduan leaned closer and whispered something into Qiao Xian's ear, causing her to push him away playfully and run off. Shao Yunduan pondered over his plan, and soon passed on the information to Qiao Hongxi. Although Qiao Hongxi wasn't sure if it was true, he hoped it was. However, when he attempted to mock Shao Yunduan, he was met with a sharp retort. Shocked and infuriated, he contemplated the situation for a while before deciding to seek his grandmother's counsel. Upon learning that the Tian family intended to cause trouble for Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan, and that Shao Yunduan was shamelessly dragging the Qiao family down with him, considering that third old master Qiao wasn't his true father-in-law, Madam Lady Qiao grew increasingly annoyed. She repeatedly expressed her disapproval, labeling the couple as deceitful, shameless, and despicable. She believed that those hypocrites were oblivious to their own true nature. They had tricked everyone, leaving the Qiao family defenseless. Do they think they can use the Qiao family as a stepping stone? They're dreaming. The Qiao family isn't someone they can involve themselves with whenever they please. In that case, we should sever all ties completely. Madam Lady Qiao exclaimed, determined to sever any remaining connections. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1081. Bad Parents. Madam Lady Qiao reached a firm decision and approached third old master Qiao, asking him to write a letter for Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian to sign. This letter would officially sever any remaining ties between the Qiao family and the couple. Taken aback, third old master tried to persuade his mother to reconsider. Mom, there's no need to rush. Perhaps we can wait for a year or so. However, his arguments didn't sway Madam Lady Qiao. She believed that they couldn't afford to wait any longer, as the situation was pressing. Third old master, though not entirely convinced, had a feeling that Shao Yunduan's future held greater potential. Moreover, he realized that his daughter was more complex than he had previously thought. These realizations only intensified his displeasure towards Madame Qiao, leading him to distance himself from her. Madam Lady Qiao, unhappy with third old master's response, argued that when the chips were down, waiting for over a year and a half was not a viable option. She recounted what Shao Yunduan had said to Qiao Hongxi, leaving third old master dumbfounded. Panicking, he began to believe that Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian were capable of such actions. In light of this, breaking off ties seemed like the only choice they had. Thus, third old master wrote down everything and visited the Shao family once again. Qiao Xian hadn't anticipated that he would present her with the letter. She felt both surprised and relieved, though she was cautious not to reveal too much. She signed the contract and carefully stored the evidence, then beamed with a bright smile. Third old master Qiao, goodbye. Hopefully, we will have nothing to do with each other. Third old master was still feeling quite annoyed. He could not help but ask, Xian, just call me Mrs. Shao. You don't miss the Qiao family at all? Qiao Xian was sneering inwardly. Your daughter is gone, killed by your cold-heartedness. Even if she was alive, she might not have a good life today, and you would not have asked such a thing. So hypocritical. No, not at all. Why should I? After Concubine passed away, I lived a life worse than that of a maid. My birth mother was filled with malice, and my father was cold and heartless. What makes you think I should stay? Qiao Xian challenged, her voice filled with bitterness. Third old master felt deeply embarrassed as he tried to defend himself. There are many bad parents in the world. Bad parents don't deserve to be called parents, Qiao Xian countered firmly. With nothing more to say, third old master sighed dejectedly. All right, I'll pretend that I never had a daughter like you. Take care of yourself. Qiao Xian smiled gratefully. Thank you for letting me go. I hope that you and the Qiao family will honor your promise. Third old master felt a wave of dizziness, his anger simmering. He left in a fit of anger. Qiao Xian reread the paper and couldn't contain her joy. Her husband was so clever. She agreed to whatever he wanted to do. As the situation resolved and Shao Yunduan's time at the Hanlin Academy progressed smoothly, Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan began discussing the idea of purchasing a shop. Surprisingly, Shao Yunduan did not object. During her free time, Qiao Xian would accompany Shao Yunduan in their search. However, finding a suitable store in the capital proved to be challenging. The right size and location seemed elusive. Yet, after some time, they stumbled upon a plot of land measuring approximately 20 mu that was available for intermediate sale, near a lake in the northern part of the city. Qiao Xian preferred the idea of purchasing land instead of a store, and she felt incredibly fortunate at their discovery. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1082, Land Buying. The plot of land measuring 20 mu was beyond the affordability of most large families. Even for ordinary families, it might be challenging to acquire. Naturally, there were others interested in purchasing the land, so Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan knew they had to act swiftly. Without hesitation, Qiao Xian made the decision to buy the land. Land in the capital came at a high price. 1 mu of land for crop cultivation cost 20 liang, significantly more expensive than the fertile water fields found in the county. However, the soil in the northern region was fertile and flat, making it easy to cultivate. Qiao Xian was pleased with her choice. Obtaining 20 mu of land brought Qiao Xian great satisfaction. She playfully joked with Shao Yunduan that they now possessed both a house and land in the capital, envisioning themselves as the foundations of the imperial city in a few years' time. Qiao Xian planned to use the land to cultivate strawberries and potatoes, dedicating the remaining area to seasonal vegetables, watermelons, cantaloupes, melons, passion fruits, and other fruits, each planted annually. The aim was self-sufficiency, a goal that excited her. Before the onset of cold weather, Qiao Xian decided to prepare the land so it would be ready for planting in the spring. First and foremost, the entire area needed proper fencing. The crops she intended to grow were valuable, and she couldn't allow anyone to spoil them. With its ample space, they could allocate half a mu for constructing additional houses. There would be a resting area, a tool shed, and a storage warehouse. They also dug a large underground cellar for storing harvested potatoes. The land would be divided into sections, ensuring there was space for pathways, deep plowing, sorting, and fine plowing in early spring, just after the Qinyu festival, when planting could commence. Once the plan was finalized, Songsher would be responsible for procuring materials and overseeing the construction process. Songsher felt a newfound sense of motivation, grateful that he finally had something to do and was no longer bored every day. He recognized that if they behaved well, their future would be promising. Knowing that both masters valued loyalty, he understood that as long as he remained loyal to them, a bright future awaited. Being a clever individual, Songsher didn't make decisions on his own when encountering people he didn't understand. Instead, he would relay the details to Qiao Xian and seek her opinion. With this approach, everything proceeded smoothly. Around 11 or 12 days later, when Shao Yunduan returned home, he discussed the Qiao family with Qiao Xian. He mentioned that the Qiao family was in turmoil due to Qiao Wei's failed marriage. Her fiancé seemed to have gotten involved with Qiao Ko, causing distress for Third Old Master and his wife. Qiao Xian was taken aback by the news. She had a strong desire to gossip and kept prodding Shao Yunduan for more details. She was curious to hear more about what was happening within the Qiao family. There was no gossip more intriguing than that from the Qiao family. She found solace in knowing that they were not leading a comfortable life. However, Shao Yunduan had only heard this one piece of information, and he wasn't fully aware of the exact details. After all, he was occupied with his work at the Hanlin Academy and had limited time to delve into the Qiao family's gossip. Qiao Xian felt slightly disappointed. Yet, she understood that her husband wasn't inclined to indulge in such matters. She decided to gather information herself. Qiao Xian requested Songsher to take a stroll around the Qiao family's vicinity, treating the servants there to tea, melon seeds, and engaging in casual conversations to gather some information. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1083. Shao at the Qiao family. Songshi, driven by his understanding of the situation, became deeply invested in gathering information. Having witnessed the animosity between his own masters and Madame Qiao, along with the Qiao family, he silently defended Qiao Xian. He believed it was worthwhile to purchase snacks and melon seeds to share with everyone, allowing them to enjoy the spectacle unfolding at the Qiao family's expense. The news didn't create much of a stir in the upper-class society of the capital. It circulated, but people treated it as a joke, sharing a laugh after dinner. Such incidents were rare but not unheard of in the capital, where gossip thrived, including many other bizarre tales. Moreover, the Qiao family no longer held a prominent position among the influential and affluent families of the capital, so they didn't garner much attention. Additionally, Qiao Wei's fiancé's family was also not of notable status, further diminishing the significance of the event. Nevertheless, news of the incident had already spread throughout the Qiao family, allowing Songshi to carry out his plans without difficulty. The situation was rather straightforward. During Madame Qiao's birthday banquet held at the Marquis of An's mansion, First Madame of the Qiao family, accompanied by Qiao Wei, Qiao Ko, Qiao Feng, and other female members of the family, went to celebrate. However, Qiao Ko was led to the area where the male guests were congregating. There, she encountered Qiao Wei's intoxicated fiancé and Ning Lufang, the youngest son of Marquis Qiao's cousin. Allegedly, Qiao Ko experienced great humiliation, prompting her to jump into the nearby lake. With many witnesses present, and the lake being shallow, she couldn't meet her demise. However, the incident left her frightened and she lost consciousness after being rescued. Her fierce reaction evoked sympathy and pity from those who witnessed it, leading them to believe she had encountered significant trouble. In contrast, Qiao Wei's response to the situation was far from satisfactory. Pale and on the verge of fainting, she struggled to cope with the unfolding events. When Qiao Ko was pulled out of the water, her eyes closed, Qiao Wei kicked her and shouted, "Bitch! Bitch! Shame on you!" This sudden outburst startled everyone. As people regained their composure and tried to restrain Qiao Wei, she grew even more furious and continued to curse. The onlookers frowned in disgust, especially those from Marquis An's mansion. They were utterly dumbfounded and wore expressions of deep concern. What would happen if such a hot-tempered woman were to marry into their family? First Madame Qiao also felt a deep sense of embarrassment. She inwardly cursed both Qiao Ko and Qiao Wei with all her might. The third branch of the Qiao family was utterly disgraceful. The concubine's daughter behaved this way, and now the lineal daughter was following suit. A true noble lady would never throw such a tantrum. Was she a noble lady or a shrew? Was such behavior necessary? Couldn't she have simply cried? All she needed to do was cover her face and run away, weeping loudly. She was the one who had been humiliated. Not to mention the humiliation brought upon the Qiao family. How infuriating! Upon hearing about the incident, third Madame Qiao was overcome with shock. She fainted on the spot. When she eventually regained consciousness, tears streamed down her face. She was a person of great pride. In the past, she wouldn't have shed tears in front of Auntie Ling and others. However, now that things were going poorly, she no longer cared about her reputation. Her tears continued to flow, and she made no effort to wipe them away. Clenching her teeth, she turned to Auntie Ling and said, "Go and teach Qiao Ko and Concubine a lesson. Teach them a lesson. I want them dead." If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1084. Payment. Third Madame did not believe that the incident was a mere accident or a coincidence. She was convinced that it was all part of Qiao Ko's plan. That despicable Qiao Ko had orchestrated Qiao Wei's ruined marriage, and Third Madame refused to accept such an outcome. In truth, Third Madame wasn't entirely wrong, but her focus was misplaced. Qiao Ko wasn't the sole mastermind behind this accident. Qiao Ko and Qiao Wei's fiancé Ning Lufang had conspired together. Third Madam would never have imagined that upon Qiao Ko's return to the capital, she would successfully captivate Ning Lufang during the few banquets they attended together. The two of them collaborated to devise this plan. Why did they choose this particular moment? Qiao Wei and her husband's wedding was scheduled after the new year. Qiao Wei was expected to accompany First Madam Qiao to celebrate Marquis Yan's birthday, thereby fostering a good relationship with the Marquis family. It was during this occasion that Qiao Wei's true nature would be exposed to the people of Marquis Mansion. Qiao Ko understood Qiao Wei well. She was certain that Qiao Wei would throw a tantrum. Upon witnessing this, the Marquis family would feel relieved and readily request a replacement bride without hesitation. Qiao Wei's behavior effectively ensured that she would be unable to marry into a reputable family in the capital. Qiao Ko's predictions had proven accurate. In a sudden realization, Third Madam of the Qiao family felt a surge of desolation, caring little about her own image. Auntie Ling could only offer a bitter smile. Third Miss had just seen a doctor, with Concubine due taking care of her, while Old Master was present as well. What else could Auntie Ling do? 2 days later, Ning Lufang's mother and sister-in-law arrived at their doorstep, expressing their regret. It was necessary for them to handle the matter properly. As Qiao Ko and Ning Lufang had engaged in a physical relationship, it was decided that the wedding date would remain the same, and the Ning family would proceed with marrying Qiao Ko. Everyone in the Qiao family agreed to this arrangement. The Ning family was unaware that Qiao Ko was the daughter of a concubine, so they saw no reason to object. They were willing to marry anyone from the Qiao family. In light of Qiao Wei's disgraceful behavior, she was slapped by Third Old Master and placed under house arrest. Third Old Master even expressed his wish for Qiao Ko to be the one getting married instead. Soon enough, the birth dates were exchanged to accommodate the new arrangement. By the time Third Madam Qiao learned of these developments, the matter had already been settled. Third Old Master harbored intense resentment towards her. He spoke coldly. Second sister-in-law and sister-in-law will discuss Ko's marriage. You should focus on recovering, and once you're well, discipline Wei properly. It's absolutely ridiculous. How have you raised your daughter all these years? The more Third Old Master dwelled on the situation, the more infuriated he became. He sneered. Xian and Ko were not raised by you, and I believe they are both good individuals. Wei, on the other hand, is a reflection of your parenting. She is no better than a street mongrel. How humiliating. Having finished his scathing remarks, Third Old Master departed without waiting for her response. Third Madam seethed with anger, clutching her chest as she watched Third Old Master leave. She emitted a stifled sound and coughed up a mouthful of blood, falling backward. Auntie Ling and Yuzan panicked, rushing to her side. Eventually, Third Madam regained consciousness. She tightly grasped Auntie Ling's sleeves, trembling as she panted. She complained. Auntie, just listen to what they're saying. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1085, Decision. It's all their fault. It's his fault. He used those women to provoke me and turn them against me. Why should I treat them kindly? Why? Third Madam cried out, her hands covering her face. Auntie Ling had dismissed Yuzan and the others, but she couldn't help feeling saddened. She wiped her eyes and said, Madam, we are women, and men can be quite unpredictable. You must gather yourself and think about what Elder Miss should do. Third Madam's face contorted with anger as she fiercely declared, I will never forgive that woman. She's delusional if she thinks she can marry young Master Ning. Old Master blames me for not raising my daughter well, but what about Concubine do? Is she doing a great job? How dare she steal her own sister's fiancé? Shameless. Auntie Ling hesitated before speaking. But Madam Qiao, the marriage has already been settled, so? And so what? Third Madam sneered. I am the birth mother, and I have a say in this marriage. I deeply regret it. How could I have allowed them to continue? I should have strangled them when they were young. No, I should have prevented their existence altogether. I deeply regret it, I deeply regret it. Third Madam was overwhelmed, her anger burning within her. She had regretted so many times before. Yet with each passing instance, her regret only grew stronger. Fate had been cruel to her. Auntie Ling couldn't help but sigh inwardly. Regret was the word Madame Qiao used most frequently. But what else could be expected? If she were in Madame Qiao's position, she too would be filled with regret. Of the two concubine's daughters, one had always been meek since childhood, while the other constantly sought the favor of Madame Qiao and Elder Miss, behaving worse than a servant. But these two daughters, whom Madame Qiao and Elder Miss regarded as no better than animals, had completely overturned their lives. A farmer who married into a farmer's family had risen to become a prominent scholar, an officer, and even caught the emperor's attention. She made significant contributions and received praise and rewards from the court. She was in the spotlight. The other daughter was even worse. She had stolen Elder Miss' marriage and caused Elder Miss to lose her composure in front of everyone, tarnishing her image and reputation. What would happen in the future? Those two incidents were not the end of it. Young Master, who had a promising future, had also been demoted, and it was the emperor himself who personally issued the demotion. Madame Qiao couldn't bear the thought of it. No one would dare to promote Young Master without the emperor's approval. Absolutely no one. If Qiao Wei could marry into the Marquis of An's mansion, perhaps there would be a chance to rectify the situation. But if it were Qiao Ko who got married, Madame Qiao would be powerless to help Young Master. It would be a humiliation. Madame's life was filled with misery. Auntie Ling felt a deep sorrow and sighed. However, there was nothing she could do but offer some futile words of consolation to Third Madame Qiao. Third Madame's expression kept shifting as she stared into the empty space before her, seemingly alternating between listening to Auntie Ling's words and drifting into a trance-like state. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1086. Lesson. Auntie, bring Concubine Du here. Third Madam suddenly issued the command. Taken aback, Auntie Ling nodded and left. However, to her dismay, Concubine Du was not by her side. Third Madam was incredibly sensitive. Her eyebrows furrowed, and she snapped. How dare that woman not show up? Auntie Ling forced a smile, trying to pacify the situation. Madam, please don't be angry. Third Miss, bah. That woman is not the Third Miss. Yes. Auntie Ling acquiesced, going along with Third Madame Qiao's words. Concubine Du's daughter is still weak, and Concubine Du says she needs to take care of her. She will come to visit Madame Qiao later. That woman. Third Madam seethed. How dare she? Who does she think she is? How dare she disobey my orders? Go and fetch her, and bring Qiao Ko as well. Make it clear to them that I have Concubine Du's contract. Let her think twice before defying me. Just go. Auntie Ling found herself in a predicament. If she conveyed this message to Old Master, what would he think of Madame Qiao? Yes, Madame Qiao did have a contract with Concubine Du, but Third Miss was on the verge of getting married, and Madame Qiao had no intention of betraying Concubine Du. That would only turn the Qiao family into a laughingstock. Old Master would never forgive Madame Qiao. They would become strangers from this moment onward. However, Auntie Ling was also furious. She was angered by Concubine Du's arrogance and pettiness. Third Miss had stolen Elder Miss' wedding, and now she had become so conceited that she defied Madame Qiao's orders and requests. She deserved to learn a lesson. Auntie Ling nodded and approached Concubine Du this time. Auntie Ling requested a private conversation on the porch. Reluctantly, Concubine Du followed, knowing that Auntie Ling's tone was far from pleasant. On the corridor outside the room, Auntie Ling fixed her gaze on Concubine Du and spoke with a cold tone. Don't forget that Madame Qiao still holds the contract with you. You know what Madame Qiao is capable of when she's angered. If Third Miss enters her husband's household with a sold concubine, her days won't be easy, will they? Concubine Du's face drained of color, her voice trembling as she replied. Third Miss was also set up. How can Madame Qiao treat her this way? I haven't done anything wrong. Old Master would never allow this. Auntie Ling snorted in response. Do you think Old Master can control Madame Qiao? Madame Qiao possesses the contract. You are merely a concubine. Who are you to defy her? Are you feeling guilty because you know you've done something wrong? Concubine Du's eyelids twitched, overcome with despair and sorrow. She knew it. She knew it. Regardless of the circumstances, it was an undeniable fact that Third Miss had disrupted Elder Miss' engagement. Madame Qiao wouldn't let her off the hook. She was determined not to spare her. But if not for Old Master's grounding, even Elder Miss wouldn't have let her off the hook. What was she going to do in the future? It's my fault. I've been too concerned. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1087, Innocence. I was concerned that something might happen to Third Miss, so I didn't dare to leave or show any disrespect to Madame Qiao. I will go with Auntie to see Madame Qiao now. Concubine Du's voice quivered as she spoke. Auntie Ling cast a disdainful glance at her and snorted. Then let's go. It seemed that some people were naturally inclined towards making things difficult. Concubine Du's lips quivered, but she didn't dare utter another word. She nodded and followed Auntie Ling inside the room. Qiao Ko closed her eyes and remained silent. She didn't want to stir up any trouble. She could confide in her father about the situation, but she chose not to. She knew her birth mother too well. Her relentless nature would drive her to do anything to provoke her. Concubine Qiao had always loved her the most, and she wouldn't blame Qiao Ko even if she were mistreated by her birth mother. Furthermore, she knew her birth mother would only torment her, and not take any serious action. Filled with fury at the sight of Concubine Du's gaze, Third Madam grabbed the teacup next to her and hurled it at Concubine Du's forehead. Concubine Du dared not dodge, feeling a sharp pain on her forehead as it turned red and swollen. The teacup crashed to the ground, shattering into pieces. You shameless bitch. How dare you do such a thing? Kneel down, you bitch. Third Madam Qiao unleashed her wrath, relentlessly cursing Concubine Du and Qiao Ko, piercing through Concubine Du's heart and causing her to bleed. Concubine Du's eyes turned red, and she trembled, unable to move or shed a tear. Throughout all these years, she had been ingratiating herself with Third Madam Qiao. And though she was a concubine, she hadn't experienced such harsh curses before. She could no longer endure it. Filled with rage, anger, and humiliation, Concubine Du was on the verge of fainting after enduring Third Madam Qiao's curses. Auntie Ling was taken aback, but Third Madam Qiao sneered. That pretentious bitch is always putting on a show. Just ignore her and wait until she wakes up. Once she's awake, tell her to continue kneeling. Concubine Du regained consciousness in the cold of the night, only to find herself still in the same position. Yuzan approached her and ordered her to kneel properly, nearly causing her to faint once again. Throughout the entire night, Concubine Du remained on her knees in front of Third Madam Qiao's bed. The next morning, Third Madam finally released her and instructed her to attend to her after lunch. Concubine Du felt a bitter sense of foreboding in her heart. She knew her nightmare had just begun, yet she was powerless to do anything about it. What good would it do if she told Old Master about this? Regardless of the circumstances, it was an undeniable fact that Elder Miss' marriage had been usurped by Qiao Ko. Old Master would never defy Third Madam Qiao for her sake. Moreover, what if Third Madam took her anger out on Ko? There were countless ways for birth mothers to control their concubine-born daughters. In reality, Concubine Du was naively hopeful. Third Madam Qiao had no intention of letting Qiao Ko off the hook. The moment Concubine Du left, Third Madam called upon Auntie Ling to help her dress and prepare for going out. She declared that she was fine, sneering at Auntie Ling's concern for her health. She had yet to deal with that wretched woman, and she wouldn't meet her demise now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1088. Engagement breaking off. That unfortunate event left Auntie Ling feeling powerless to dissuade Third Madame Qiao any further, so she reluctantly obeyed the order. Third Madame Qiao, elegantly dressed, consumed a bowl of red date, snow fungus, and lotus seed soup before venturing out with Auntie Ling and Yuzan. Their destination was the Ning family residence. Her purpose there was to call off the engagement with the Ning family. Since the Ning family would no longer be her future in-laws, there was no need for formalities. After some casual conversation, Third Madame Qiao explained her intention to retrieve the birthdate note. Unbeknownst to her, Third Old Master had entrusted the task of arranging Qiao Ko's marriage to the two sister-in-laws, due to her illness. Had she been aware of this, she would never have agreed to the engagement. She had already made a promise to someone else regarding Qiao Ko's marriage, and they were about to exchange birthdate notes. It would be improper for one daughter to make promises to two families simultaneously. She expressed deep regret for the situation. Furthermore, Qiao Ko, being the daughter of a concubine, received limited education from her mother at a young age. She lacked knowledge of zither, chess, calligraphy, painting, and household management. Her social skills were lacking, and she felt unworthy of young Master Ning. Third Madame Ning's expression turned grim. After exchanging a few polite words, she promptly returned Qiao Ko's birthdate note to Third Madame Qiao without hesitation. Upon learning of this development, Ning Lufeng grew irritated. He professed his sincere affection for Qiao Ko, and pleaded with his mother to allow the marriage. Third Madame Ning snapped. "It's impossible. If it weren't for the unfortunate incident, we would still need to explain ourselves to the Qiao family. Do you think I would willingly accept a concubine's daughter as my daughter-in-law?" Her biological mother herself requested the return of the birthdate note, and I can't wait to comply. Her biological mother stated that she is useless, and if we were to proceed with the marriage, we would become a laughingstock. The idea of the Ning family marrying a concubine's daughter, openly criticized by her biological mother, was utterly humiliating. Ning Lufeng was left speechless. He had developed genuine feelings for Qiao Ko, but he was unwilling to sever ties with his family over her. Alternatively, he could simply let the matter go. Ultimately, he prioritized maintaining his reputation. Third Madame Qiao informed her two sister-in-laws about the situation with the birthdate notes, instructing them to cease their efforts. She then tasked Auntie Ling with conveying the news to Third Old Master, Qiao Ko, and Concubine Du. Qiao Ko and Concubine Du were taken aback by Third Madame Qiao's actions. Their hearts sank with despair. Enraged, Third Old Master stormed up to Third Madame Qiao and slapped her across the face. Pointing a trembling finger at her, he uttered not a single word. His anger was so overwhelming that he couldn't even muster a curse. Remaining composed, Third Madame Qiao sneered. Wei has suffered greatly, yet Old Master does nothing to console or defend her. Instead, he confines her and blames me. That wretched Qiao Ko stole Wei's fiancé. Old Master, do you really think I will fulfill her desires? Dream on. You're being unreasonable. Ko is also a victim. She is innocent. How can you blame her? Such claims are nothing but foolish lies. I won't believe a word of it. If you don't believe me, then show me the evidence and I will believe you. And even if they provide evidence, will the marriage still be for Wei? Unable to find words, Third Old Master glared at Third Madame Qiao. His love for her was shattered. That woman was his wife. She was his beloved wife. He had once been overwhelmed with emotions and considered himself fortunate to be married to such a virtuous woman. She had helped him resolve numerous troubles and spared him countless headaches in the province. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1089. Shock. Unexpectedly, his wife had revealed such a side of her character. She had caused chaos within the entire family. He felt utterly humiliated. Even her own mother, elder brother, and second brother were greatly displeased because the Qiao family had become implicated in the situation. Third Old Master was consumed by annoyance. However, what was the use of beating Third Madame to death? Their priority now was to handle the problem smoothly. He stormed off angrily, stomping his feet as he departed. Consequently, they also imposed a punishment on third Madame Qiao by confining her. This was the information that Songshi had heard. I heard that the Qiao family is in complete disarray right now. Third Old Master is still considering handing over the birth date note to the Ning family. Do you think they will accept it? Songshi asked. Qiao Xian shook her head, smiling. Normal people wouldn't. The Ning family is in a difficult situation, and Qiao Wei's fiancé happens to be a cousin of Marquis Yan, a family with some reputation. It has become a laughingstock, and they are trying to avoid further embarrassment. They will never accept the invitation again. Songshi chuckled. You're absolutely right. Qiao Xian instructed Songshi to continue with her work, but she herself intended to keep an eye on the developments within the Qiao family. It was bound to be quite a spectacle. It was a marvelous spectacle, a form of revenge for everything that had happened. It left people eagerly anticipating more. It was the kind of drama that made them crave an extra few bowls of rice. As Qiao Xian had predicted, first Madame Qiao and second Madame Qiao visited the Ning family, but the Ning family declined to accept any further birth date notes. Marriage was a serious matter. The lineal mother had taken back the birth date notes and made promises to someone else. Yet 2 days later, someone arrived claiming that it had all been a misunderstanding. Were they playing with them? The Qiao family found themselves at a loss when the Ning family rejected their advances. Madame Lady Qiao relentlessly scolded her daughter-in-law, accusing her of not caring about her actions and turning the Qiao family into a laughingstock. Third Old Master was consumed by anxiety as well. However, Qiao Ko suddenly delivered shocking news to Third Old Master and Madame Yuezheng through Concubine Du. She was pregnant, and the child belonged to the young master of the Ning family. It was a complete bombshell. This meant that Qiao Ko and Ning Lufang had been engaged in a clandestine affair behind Qiao Wei's back. The accident between Qiao Ko and Ning Lufang that had occurred recently, as well as Qiao Ko's subsequent setup, were all staged. They had conspired together to be with each other. First Madame Qiao and second Madame Qiao were left dumbfounded, while Madame Lady Qiao erupted in anger. You are nothing but a concubine's daughter. How dare you engage in such shameless behavior? Third Old Master flushed with embarrassment, feeling the urge to bury himself in the ground. He could no longer blame Third Madame Qiao. Mother, please, we need to find a solution to this problem. Madame Lady Qiao pointed at him. And where have you been all these years? Your family is now in such a scandalous state, and everyone is worried. Third Old Master hung his head low, listening to the scolding. Reluctantly, Madame Lady Qiao had no choice but to visit the Ning family and personally meet Third Madame Ning. She approached the situation with a ruthless demeanor, employing both persuasion and coercion. She argued that it took two to tango, and both children were at fault. However, Qiao Ko was already young Master Ning's woman, and she was carrying his child. If the Ning family refused to accept her into their family, it would bring unbearable humiliation upon the Qiao family. Qiao Ko, too, could not bear the shame and had even considered taking her own life at the gates of the Ning family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1090, Concubine. Upon hearing Madame Lady Qiao's words, Third Madame Ning felt as though she might faint. She couldn't bring herself to believe what she was hearing. She turned to her son and berated him, exclaiming, "You good for nothing." The Ning family had to take responsibility for their actions. If they didn't, news of her son impregnating his fiancée's sister would spread, and he would never be able to find a suitable marriage partner in the future. The family's reputation would be utterly ruined. However, everyone had their own loyalties to their respective families. Third Madame Ning cursed her son for his uselessness and held great disdain for Qiao Ko, considering her shameless. She was well aware that her son was meant to become Qiao Ko's brother-in-law, yet she had still seduced him. It was clear that she had ulterior motives. How could a woman like this involve her own family in such a mess, and still have the audacity to desire becoming her daughter-in-law? It was utterly unreasonable. Third Madam Ning only agreed to accept Qiao as a concubine. Most noble families wouldn't allow their sons to take concubines before marriage, but there was a reason behind that. After all, physical relationships needed to be accounted for. They discreetly passed through the door and first moved Qiao to the ancestral temple. They would wait for the wife's approval before bringing her back home. This was a way to show respect to the wife. Third Madam Ning firmly rejected the idea of Qiao becoming the wife, stating bluntly, "He is meant to be her brother-in-law, and she is not a good person either. Why should the Ning family accept her? Either we compromise and let her be a concubine, or we'll fight to the bitter end." No one would benefit from this situation. Madam Lady Qiao had no interest in a concubine's daughter like Qiao, whom she had no fondness for. She simply hoped to cover up the whole affair so that Qiao Feng and Qiao Li's marriage wouldn't be affected. Why did it matter if she was a concubine? She was just a shameless concubine's daughter, and being a concubine was already a great honor for her. Thus, the matter was settled. Concubine Du let out a scream and fainted. Why did her daughter have to endure such a miserable life? She had experienced enough misery as a concubine herself. Her only hope in life was for her daughter to become the legal wife, so why did she have to become someone else's concubine? With this stain on her reputation even before the wedding, her future prospects would be bleak. The entire Ning family would not hold her in high regard. Qiao was also shocked. She simply couldn't believe that Ning Lufeng, who had seemed so infatuated with her, would now make her a concubine. He wouldn't agree to her demand. She had thought she had complete control over him, that he loved her with all his heart. But what was happening now? Didn't he realize how wronged she would feel? Qiao attempted to meet them privately. The Qiao family didn't care, but the Ning family did. Third Madam Ning confined her youngest son to their home, forbidding him from leaving. As a result, Qiao couldn't meet with anyone. In desperation, Qiao resorted to desperate measures. Like a drowning man clutching at a straw, she threatened the Qiao family, demanding that they negotiate with the Ning family. She refused to be a concubine, and insisted on being the first wife. Otherwise, she claimed she would starve herself. Madam Lady Qiao sneered and ignored her. She believed that the Ning family didn't care about the life growing inside Qiao's womb. They would consider it nothing more than a bastard child. Not eating? Madam Lady Qiao asked someone to hold her down and feed her soup, as long as she could be kept alive. She did not believe that Qiao really wanted to die. A few days later, a sedan chair carried Qiao to the Ning family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1091. Underestimation. Qiao was denied any opportunity to meet with Ning Lufeng while under house arrest at the Ning family's residence. The following day, they were forcefully escorted onto a wagon and sent to an abbey located outside of town. Upon arriving at the abbey, she was immediately presented with a bowl of abortion soup. Third Madam Ning had already shown some leniency by allowing her to become a concubine in the family. She had no intention of letting Qiao bear the family's first child. As Third Madam Ning already had 3 sons, with the eldest and second sons having children of their own, she had no interest in the child growing inside Qiao's belly. Qiao screamed and struggled, but she was powerless to change her own fate. Her child was lost, and she had nothing left to hold on to. Lying on a dilapidated bed, she resembled a lifeless puppet, unable to even move her gaze. Despite being at the age of blossoming youth, her heart was now dead. If the Ning family's servants were to tell her that she would never return to the mansion, she wouldn't doubt it for a moment. Regret washed over her. She had underestimated the methods of her biological mother. She had also underestimated Qiao Xian's lineal mother. Witnessing how Qiao Xian defied her authority, and yet remained unscathed. But she had never anticipated that she would end up in this predicament. She was meant to be Qiao Wei's biological mother, destined to be under her control. Even though she had tried her best to steal Qiao Wei's marriage, she failed to hold on to it, and now found herself in this pitiable state. She simply couldn't accept it. After Qiao Ko left the pavilion, Concubine Du pleaded with Third Old Master Qiao, expressing her desire to become a nun. She was going to become a nun at the nunnery. Annoyed, Third Old Master snapped at her. Was she here causing the trouble only? Madam Lady Qiao sneered. She asked someone to pass on the message to Concubine Du. If she wanted to become a monk, she could just stay indoors, eat vegetarian food every day and pray to Buddha. But she was not going to a nunnery. Everyone knew that she could move about freely in the nunnery. Then what was she going to do? Concubine Du was shocked and scared when Madam Lady Qiao revealed her secret. But she did not dare to think about anything else. She was thinking that she was never going to see Qiao Ko ever again. Disheartened, she decided to stay away from the world. Third Madam felt so glad. That was how bitches should end up. How dare she set up her daughter? Did she think that she was dead? But Qiao Wei's marriage was ruined, and her image was ruined. What should she do? Third Madam still had a headache. Qiao Wei felt the same. She was furious and confused about the future, though she felt happy about it. She had always believed that she was going to be able to marry the Duke's mansion, because Qiao Ko and Qiao Xian would never be able to match up to her. But suddenly, everything was gone. She was not young anymore. What should she do? Third Madam had no idea what was going on either. So she consoled Qiao Wei. She was going to find a way. And after the new year, everything would get better. The gossip from the Qiao family were so shocking. Qiao Xian listened coldly, showing no intention of getting involved. She did not think that Qiao Ko was worth pitying. She had no choice but to bear the consequences when she did more than what she was capable of. For example, Qiao Ko would not sympathize with her if she ended up like this. She would not help her either. Qiao Ko was a person who liked to take pleasure in others' misfortune. The more unlucky she was, the more proud she felt. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1092. Not borrowing. Qiao Xian was very curious about how she got those feelings. But she knew that was what Qiao Ko was going to be like. She was already being very kind without adding fuel to the fire. When the gossip came to the end, the 20 mu of land in the north of the city was sorted out. The bricks were all surrounded by a wall more than 2 meters high. They opened 2 doors in front and behind. When they went in through the front door, they saw a flat land paved with green bricks. There were 3 small houses resting on the flat land. On the other side was the storeroom and tool room. There was a huge cellar under the storeroom and tool room. Several roads crisscrossed through the vast expanse of land, dividing it into multiple sections. A canal had been specially constructed to facilitate irrigation by drawing water from outside sources. Qiao Xian's space differed from the outside world. Every crop had been planted and grown in halves, allowing the potatoes that were planted earlier to be ready for harvest. Once harvested, new potatoes could be planted, resulting in another batch to be harvested the following spring. As Qiao Xian contemplated, she realized that by following this approach, they could plant over 10 mu of potatoes here next year. The land would expand significantly in the coming year, providing an opportunity to share some with Lu Men and Gu Zhio. Additionally, there were strawberries. Qiao Xian had planted them both in the backyard and the space, with the ones in the space growing luxuriantly. The vines held onto the elderly plants and produced numerous separate offshoots. While the plants in the backyard didn't fare as well as those in the space, they displayed remarkable strength and vitality with the aid of Qiao Xian's superpower, sprouting several branches. Qiao Xian diligently strengthened and planted each individual branch. A few of them had already begun blooming, bearing small white flowers and budding fruits. Qiao Xian pondered whether the strawberries could survive the winter in the open air of the capital city under the protection of her superpower. If successful, it would simplify matters significantly. In the coming year, they could transplant some from the backyard and obtain seedlings from the space. Planting them in the northern part of the city would allow the branches to thrive. Within a span of 2 months, cultivating 2 or 3 mu of strawberries shouldn't pose a major challenge. They decided to keep the strawberries for themselves. Potatoes held great value, and if her husband offered them to the imperial court, the Tian family would lose any chance of controlling them again. That would surely irritate them. Qiao Xian even contemplated starting a beekeeping endeavor in this place. It seemed quite straightforward. Next year, they could venture into the suburban mountains and use their superpower to locate and collect a wild bee colony. Piece of cake. As the day grew late, the weather turned colder. Qiao Xian Li Qiao and Li Xia strolled down the street and purchased some trendy garments to have them tailored at a local store. Since she lacked expertise in handicrafts and her own creations couldn't compare to professional work, she didn't mind spending a little extra money to have skilled artisans handle the customization. Qiao Xian found it peculiar that some wives of Shao Yunduan's colleagues from the Hanlin Academy approached her for loans. However, she didn't find it entirely surprising. The Hanlin Academy had financial difficulties, and the government office wouldn't provide them with ice or charcoal by year-end. To ensure a comfortable winter, they had to work hard. Having their own residence in the capital and receiving numerous gifts from the emperor, queen, and concubines in the harem, it was only natural for people to seek financial assistance. Nevertheless, Qiao Xian had no intention of lending them money. Colleagues shouldn't involve money or profits between them, as it would complicate many matters. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1093. Not opened. Also, it was not a loan. It was a gift. It would be a long time before those scholars returned the money. 10 years would not be enough. She could not rush them either, because that would cause grudge. Only a fool would do something like this. Furthermore, if they lent money to one person, would the second person be willing to lend it back to them? Or the third or fourth person? Qiao Xian remained silent. They explained that they had already spent a considerable sum on paying tribute to their ancestors, and wouldn't be home for long. Worried about the hardships their family might face, they had kept some money at home. However, they had recently purchased a plot of land measuring over 10 mu in the northern part of town, and had run out of funds. If they had any, they would gladly lend it to them. While the emperor and the court had bestowed them with many valuable items, those items could be used for decoration and wear, but they couldn't be pawned. No one would dare make such a request. The visitor had no choice but to abandon the idea. Although a hint of dissatisfaction lingered, what did it matter? They weren't relatives or friends, and they didn't owe them any favors. They had no obligation to lend them money. A sense of dejection washed over them, but the displeasure was merely temporary and would soon dissipate. Some individuals couldn't resist asking Qiao Xian where she had acquired the land. With a smile, she shared all the details, expressing her intention to cultivate various vegetables there next year, including greens, cabbages, radishes, winter melons, loofahs, chili peppers, and eggplants, ensuring a supply of fresh produce. The prices of ingredients in the capital were exorbitant, and she felt a pang of distress every time she had to buy them. They decided it would be wise to purchase a piece of land and cultivate vegetables to save money. Additionally, they could raise chickens and ducks, benefiting from fresh eggs and occasionally slaughtering one to satisfy their cravings. Those who heard this proposition were left speechless. They pondered that if they hadn't purchased the land, they would have had money to lend. It would have amounted to 200 or 300 liang, right? With 200 or 300 liang, they could have bought vegetables for many years. It seemed excessive to spend so much just to grow vegetables and raise poultry. However, the money belonged to Qiao Xian and her husband, and they had the right to spend it as they pleased. No one would dare question their choices. That was how Qiao Xian dealt with people who frequently approached her for loans. She found it puzzling, despite being new to the area and somewhat hesitant to turn them down. It shouldn't have attracted so many borrowers, right? Eventually, Qiao Xian realized that it was Madame Lin who had informed them about her wealth. The next day, Qiao Xian approached Madame Lin to borrow money for the upcoming new year, but her request was unsuccessful. Consequently, when someone arrived at their doorstep seeking a loan, Qiao Xian claimed she had no money and mentioned going to Madame Lin to borrow some. Word spread, and soon no one dared to request money from her. Qiao Xian sneered and informed Shao Yunduan about the situation, warning him to be cautious of Madame Lin's husband and her associates, who were likely affiliated with the Tian family. Madame Lin couldn't contain her frustration. She had intended to manipulate Qiao Xian to gain favor with the Tian family, but failed. Qiao Xian seemed to have realized that something was amiss. Miss Qiao was indeed quite clever. Madame Lin's attempt to manipulate Qiao Xian left her feeling a tinge of jealousy. Such was the nature of the world. The more cunning and manipulative one was, the more likely they were to succeed. It seemed that justice had little place in this world. In early October, Qiao Xian received an invitation from Ms. Shi, the secondary concubine of the fourth prince's mansion. The invitation requested her presence at the yard located in the northern part of town, to admire the vibrant red leaves and blooming chrysanthemums. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1094. Invitation. Qiao Xian understood that she should avoid getting involved with the prince's mansions. However, Shao Yunduan had caught the emperor's attention, and she had played a part in it as well. It seemed logical for Miss Shi, the secondary concubine of the fourth prince, to extend an invitation to her. Shao Yunduan was somewhat concerned and disapproved of Qiao Xian's decision. Despite his worries, Qiao Xian insisted on attending. Inwardly she sneered. She had actually planned to cause trouble for the fourth prince's mansion. But secondary concubine Shi had come to her on her own accord, so she saw no reason to hold back. While she possessed the ability to use her superpower to gather information about the fourth prince's mansion in the capital, the bustling city made it challenging to filter through the multitude of voices in her head. It was difficult to discern useful information. Moreover, she couldn't spend all her time spying on the fourth prince's mansion, nor could she predict when she would receive the information she sought. Thus, she temporarily abandoned this impractical idea. However, when it came to visiting the side yard and admiring the red leaves and flowers in the mountains, it was an entirely different matter. Qiao Xian delighted in such activities in the outskirts. Qiao Xian maintained that she possessed the skill of preserving peony flowers, speculating that the invitation from the fourth prince's secondary concubine was either an attempt to win her over or a subtle warning. As long as she wasn't foolish, she believed there wouldn't be any trouble. Hence, she attended the event without any mishap. Furthermore, it would be considered improper if they declined the invitation from the fourth prince's mansion, as they were invited guests. They had also visited the crown prince at the East Palace, and Qiao Xian had saved the emperor's peony through her actions in the East Palace. However, declining the invitation indicated their support for the crown prince, which was something Qiao Xian wished to avoid. Though she didn't dare voice it, Qiao Xian could discern that it wouldn't be the crown prince who would ascend to the throne. Since Shao Yunduan had always been unable to counter her, he requested that she wear the golden hairpin gifted by the queen, and the jade given to them by Xie. The Xie family held significant influence in the intermediate levels of the capital, particularly young Master Xie, who possessed remarkable talent. The emperor himself expressed regret at not participating in the spring examination. It was widely known that young Master Xie came from a prestigious family and possessed exceptional abilities. Given his aspirations, he could effortlessly attain a high-ranking position. No one would dare disrespect such an individual. Qiao Xian understood that she had no real use for these items, but she took them with her to reassure Shao Yunduan. In the suburbs and the mountains, she would create her own world. It was a display of arrogance. Anyone who attempted to set her up or make things difficult for her would ultimately bring misfortune upon themselves. Early in the morning, after breakfast, Qiao Xian bid farewell to Shao Yunduan. Songshi drove the rented wagon while Qiao Xian and Li Xia boarded it together. She had no intention of bringing Songshi and Li Xia into the fourth prince's residence. Having too many people around wouldn't be ideal. Instead, they would keep the wagon company from the outside. Qiao Xian surmised that among the guests invited by secondary concubine Shi, she likely held the lowest status. It would have been ideal for her to arrive earlier. However, without a wagon of her own, it was understandable that she was a bit delayed. She arrived at the side yard at the appropriate time. It was not that they could not afford the wagon, but that was not necessary. The wagon needed to be maintained, and the horse needed to be taken care of and fed every day. And there was a place to lock it up, which was too troublesome. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1095, Old Friend. Qiao Xian tapped gently on the door, clutching the invitation in her hand. A eunuch greeted her with utmost politeness and ushered her inside. The prince's mansion boasted a side yard that befitted the grandeur of the royal family. The meticulous sutras and the work of skilled craftsmen exuded elegance, setting it apart from any other place. Despite the arrival of autumn, the garden remained vibrant, devoid of any signs of melancholy. Sweet osmanthus, autumn hibiscus, rhododendron, camellia, jasmine, and a variety of chrysanthemums adorned the autumnal landscape. Splashes of bright colors from the big red oranges and golden and yellow leaves delighted the eyes of onlookers. As they strolled towards the autumn house, the eunuch led Qiao Xian through the exquisite surroundings. Qiao Xian followed along with a smile, harboring no concerns about the eunuch's intentions. They served as her trusted eyes and ears, instilling a sense of fearlessness within her. However, Qiao Xian found herself unexpectedly encountering a familiar face in this place. Her heart skipped a beat as she laid eyes on a stunning woman, adorned with intricate makeup, a stylish hairstyle, and embellished with gold hairpins and pearls. The lady donned a finely embroidered yellow palace dress, radiating an air of familiarity that Qiao Xian struggled to place. The beauty smiled warmly at her and addressed her as Mrs. Shao. Recognition flooded Qiao Xian's mind, and she struggled to maintain her composure. It was He Jiqing, the cousin from the Xie family, who had once attempted to seduce Xie Jingrong with Tao Tao, now held the title of Madam in the fourth prince's mansion. The eunuch respectfully greeted He Jiqing, prompting Qiao Xian to bow in deference, saying, "Good day, Madam He." The fourth prince had a prince consort named Ms. Dou, as well as a secondary concubine, Ms. Shi. He Jiqing had become one of the concubines. The eunuch displayed an evident reverence towards her, solidifying Qiao Xian's belief that the fourth prince held her in high regard. He Jiqing's smile widened as she clasped Qiao Xian's hands and spoke, "Mrs. Shao, your kindness knows no bounds. We are old friends. There's no need for such formality." Qiao Xian pondered silently to herself. The Xie family had proven to be remarkably resourceful. Without their influence, He Jiqing wouldn't have gained entry into the fourth prince's mansion so swiftly. However, during her time in the capital with Shao Yunduan, Xie Jingrong had kept her unaware of these developments. It became evident that something unpleasant had transpired between He Jiqing and the Xie family. Qiao Xian was cautious about getting too close to He Jiqing. She couldn't quite gauge the depths of He Jiqing's character, but she sensed a shrewdness about her. It was wiser to keep her distance from a cunning individual, without a kind heart. Withdrawing her hands, Qiao Xian took a few steps back and maintained a composed expression. "Madam He, you must be jesting. I am not fortunate enough to be considered your old friend. You overestimate my importance. I am here at the Xie family's behest, and our paths have merely crossed by chance." Unsure of He Jiqing's sudden attempt at closeness, Qiao Xian decided to steer the conversation away from that topic. He Jiqing was taken aback. She hadn't anticipated Mrs. Shao's rejection of her goodwill. Concealing her irritation, the warmth faded from her expression, and she chuckled softly behind her handkerchief, adopting a coquettish tone. "Mrs. Shao is truly straightforward. We coincidentally bumped into each other in the capital, which is a rare occurrence. We should enjoy this opportunity as old friends and explore together." "Yes, Madam He," Qiao Xian replied, offering a polite smile and refraining from declining the invitation. Walking side by side, He Jiqing maintained her smile, commenting on the blossoming flowers and the splendid scenery. However, her composure seemed slightly rattled compared to before. "If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1096. Unwilling. Not long ago, at the Xie family, He Jiqing had attempted to manipulate Tao Tao, only to be exposed by Qiao Xian. The very next day, Lady Qiao had promptly sent her back to the He family. He Jiqing harbored a sense of resentment towards Qiao Xian. Deep down, she believed that Qiao Xian must have divulged something to Xie Jingrong. How else could it be so coincidental that Qiao Xian encountered them on the first day, only to drive them away on the next? Since being sent away, she had realized that she and the Xie family cousins would never be together. However, upon witnessing the splendor of the Xie family, He Jiqing lost interest in pursuing connections with any other family. Instead, she resolved to venture into the capital and establish a close relationship with the fourth prince, leveraging the reputation of the Xie family and the items granted by Lady Qiao. She was even willing to become one of the fourth prince's concubines. Why not? The fourth prince, born to the emperor's favored honored Princess Mei, held a unique position. Although there was a crown prince in the Qin dynasty, his mother had already passed away. Despite being renowned for his talents, the emperor had never treated him favorably. According to He Jiqing, the more praise the crown prince received from the subjects, the more discomfort it caused the emperor. The future was unpredictable, and it was impossible to determine who would ultimately hold the greatest fortune. Who could say that it wouldn't be the fourth prince? He Jiqing envisioned herself as a revered figure, unwilling to settle for a peaceful life with a spouse from a respectable background. That simply wasn't acceptable to her. The fourth prince desired to suppress Shao Yunduan, and Qiao Xian possessed expertise in peonies. He Jiqing saw an opportunity to be of assistance in that regard. If Qiao Xian were to become aware of the current circumstances, perhaps she could let go of the grudges from the past. After all, present benefits held greater importance. However, if Qiao Xian remained unaware of the situation, it couldn't be blamed on He Jiqing. He Jiqing couldn't help but sneer inwardly. Without her skills, no one would have shown any interest in Qiao Xian. She was merely putting on airs. Soon they reached the autumn house. The wide flat land halfway up the mountain provided a breathtaking view. Positioned next to the mountainside, it offered a sweeping vista of more than half of the side yard. Maple trees were scattered throughout, their red leaves more vibrant than fire, creating a truly enchanting sight in the advanced stages of autumn. He Jiqing and Qiao Xian approached secondary concubine Shi, who greeted them with a warm smile and offered them seats. Curiosity gleamed in her eyes as she assessed Qiao Xian, eliciting a chuckle. I've heard from mother and princess consort about Madame Shao. They all praise your ability to know when to advance and when to retreat. Now seeing you in person, it appears to be true. Over 10 madams and ladies were present as guests, hailing from noble families or holding prominent positions. Qiao Xian was a new face to them, inciting their curiosity. Their gazes unabashedly examined her. Qiao Xian didn't appreciate their direct and unscrupulous stares. However, this wasn't the first time she had faced such scrutiny, nor would it be the last. Having previously encountered the princess consort and the empress, she harbored no fear. She offered a polite smile. Your flattery honors me, consort Qiao. Secondary concubine Shi beamed. Madame Shao, please don't be so modest. You truly deserve the accolades. Madame Zhan, the wife of the left assistant minister of the Ministry of Architecture, chimed in. Indeed. We were just discussing Madame Shao and her profound knowledge of flowers. We can't hold a candle to Madame Shao. They all laughed. Another madam pointed at the pot of orchids on the advanced table and asked with a smile. Madame Shao, take a look at it. Do you know what kind it is? What is the problem? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1097. Orchid. Qiao Xian was thinking inwardly. Here they are. That was what they were curious about. But that was understandable. She would have been very curious too. That was a rare thing. Qiao Xian threw a look at the orchids. The long, slender green leaves exhibited a lush and moist appearance. They were gathered, with the tips gently drooping outward. Planted in an octagonal purple sandflower pot intricately carved with depictions of mountains, rivers, pine bamboos. It exuded an aura of antiquity and elegance. The flowers bloomed in a delicate shade of light green, evoking a fairy-like elegance. The emerald green sepals resembled peach petals, while the slender flowers mirrored the shape of peach petals. Hence, it earned the name emerald peach. Orchids held immense popularity during this era, and Qiao Xian had acquired comprehensive knowledge about them through the system within her spatial realm. Consequently, she recognized the orchid species immediately upon setting her eyes upon them. In the modern era, emerald peaches had long gone extinct, and Qiao Xian had no desire to encounter them at this moment. However, their presence indicated their remarkable value. Qiao Xian observed them attentively, but refrained from divulging their exact classification. Emerald peaches were rare, and she was merely a Madame Hanlin hailing from a humble background. It was unlikely that she had encountered them before. She smiled warmly. While I may not be able to identify the exact species, the orchids are thriving and exhibit no signs of distress. You can rest assured. However, the madam appeared unwilling to let the matter go. Nevertheless, I still find these orchids rather lackluster. Our old master has a penchant for cultivating exquisite varieties such as green clouds, plain lotus, heavy snow, peach cheeks, 18 beauties, and so forth. I can't help but feel that there is something amiss with this pot of emerald peaches. Madame Shao, perhaps you could examine them more closely? Upon hearing Madame Qiao's remarks, the others began whispering amongst themselves, hinting at the possibility of something being awry with the orchids. Qiao Xian maintained her composed smile, fully aware of what was truly happening. If there is any issue with the orchids, it is simply because they have recently been relocated from the greenhouse and are still acclimating to their new environment. There are no other problems to be concerned about. The collective shock was palpable. Qiao Xian's explanation seemed absurd. It appeared as though Madame Shao was spouting nonsense. The expression on Madame Qiao's face changed abruptly. In a state of surprise, she blurted out, "How did you know?" Even secondary concubine sure was taken aback. It seemed that Qiao Xian's statement held truth. Emerald peaches held great significance to the fourth prince, and there were only 3 pots of them in the entire capital. Due to the presence of a hot spring in the vicinity of the side yard, a dedicated greenhouse had been constructed. As winter approached, these precious orchids had been relocated from the greenhouse to the intermediate side yard. In case of sudden weather fluctuations, the greenhouse could be used to maintain a suitable temperature, far superior to relying solely on charcoal fires. Those renowned orchids would lose their perfection if they were damaged, and orchid enthusiasts found such imperfections unacceptable. Secondary concubine sure had placed the peach blossoms on display not only due to her personal fondness for their elegance, but also as a means to showcase her favored position. A few days prior, there had been a sudden drop in temperature, prompting the relocation of the emerald peaches when the weather improved. How could Qiao Xian discern such details so easily? Unable to contain her curiosity, secondary concubine sure inquired, "Madame Shao, how did you come to this realization?" The others were left dumbfounded, acknowledging the accuracy of Qiao Xian's observation. It became evident that Madame Shao possessed knowledge about the matter. After all, she was the second sister-in-law of secondary concubine Sher's family. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1098, Mocking. Qiao Xian smiled serenely as she addressed the gathering. The temperature and humidity disparities between the greenhouse and its surroundings can easily affect orchids. These delicate flowers are highly sensitive to such changes, a fact that is quite evident. Everyone present. Indeed, it had not been an effortless journey for her. "I understand," concurred secondary concubine Sher, nodding graciously. She turned to Madame Shao with a smile and added, Madame Shao possesses an unparalleled understanding of this subject. Only she can discern such subtleties. We can't claim to possess such discerning tastes. Laughter echoed through the room as the ladies and madams joined in. Some couldn't help but feel a twinge of envy. They dubbed it sheer luck. In the past, no one paid attention to her. No one laughed at her, looked down on her, or belittled her for her humble beginnings, akin to a mere floral artisan tending to plants and flowers. But when she rescued the emperor's beloved peony, even the court florists were left speechless. Her clever maneuver earned her favor and countless accolades from the emperor and the empress. No one dared to look down on her anymore. No one dared to mock her. It would be tantamount to defying the entire court. Suddenly, a young lady blinked mischievously and inquired, her voice laced with a smile. "That's quite peculiar. The Qiao family doesn't seem to possess a natural aptitude for this profession. How did Madame Shao acquire such skills?" The young lady was a cousin of Tian Shanshan from the Tian family, accompanied by her mother. Officer Tian and his family had remained silent, and as relatives, they had no intention of making things difficult for Qiao Xian on this occasion, for the sake of appearances. However, the girl's inquisitiveness couldn't be faulted. Everyone present was well aware of the animosity between the Tian family, Shao Yunduan, and Qiao Xian. The whispers of Qiao Xian's association with the Qiao family spread throughout the room, igniting a spark of anticipation among the attendees. It was a universally known fact that people reveled in gossip and conflicts. If the Tian family engaged in a dispute with Madame Shao, it would undoubtedly be a captivating spectacle. Qiao Xian smiled in response. "It's not surprising that others are unaware of this. I had a lot of leisure time at home, so I immersed myself in books and took up some personal gardening projects. Over time, I developed certain insights." It was the safest and most indisputable explanation. Even if others doubted her, what did it matter? The lady from the Tian family displayed a look of enlightenment. "I see. Madame Shao, you possess an exceptional talent for self-learning, despite your young age. I assume you devoted a significant amount of time to this pursuit during your upbringing? It's quite a remarkable approach," she added playfully. "Seems like being overlooked at home can be a blessing in disguise. Who knows what skills one might acquire, and how useful they may become in the future." With a jesting tone, she turned to Qiao Xian and continued, "Speaking of which, Madame Shao, you ought to express gratitude to your maternal figure. If it weren't for her, you might never have had the opportunity to flourish." Some couldn't help but burst into laughter, while others discreetly covered their mouths to stifle their amusement. Everyone grasped the underlying meaning behind Ms. Tian's words. She was mocking Qiao Xian for being neglected and unloved by her mother, insinuating her lack of filial piety. According to her, third Madame Qiao's indifference had inadvertently contributed to Qiao Xian's success. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1099, Concealed. However, eventually, she severed ties with the Qiao family, an act considered deeply unfilial. Qiao Xian responded, her voice calm yet resolute. "Lady Tian, I believe there is a misunderstanding. Learning requires time, but talent is equally crucial. Take my husband, for instance. His rise to the position of primus at such a young age is a testament to his dedication and natural aptitude. Similarly, my proficiency in tending to flowers and trees is not something that can be acquired solely through time." She emphasized the significance of talent over mere passage of time. She continued, recounting her past experiences. "In the past, I used to sneak out and use the money my mother gave me to purchase books of this nature. Although the content was sparse, I would destroy them after reading, fearful that they might cause trouble. Nevertheless, I gleaned some knowledge. At that time, it was merely for amusement. I never anticipated its practical value." Qiao Xian addressed the topic of gratitude. Regarding Ms. Tian's suggestion to express gratitude to third Madame Qiao, that must surely be a jest. Parents should fulfill their roles as parents, wouldn't you agree? However, I am genuinely grateful to third Madam Qiao for breaking off my previous engagement and arranging my marriage to my husband. It is true that misfortunes and fortunes often shape our destinies. A bewildered silence fell upon the room as they exchanged uncertain glances. It was a foolproof plan. Thanks to the Tian family, many secrets regarding Shao Yunduan and Qiao Xian had been unearthed, including her previous betrothal, which was no longer a secret. When Qiao Xian married Shao Yunduan, he was merely a destitute talent from the countryside, while her former fiancé was an educated scholar groomed for the position of county magistrate. So, was third Madam Qiao truly acting in her best interests? It seemed she had been scheming to ruin Qiao Xian's life, to steal someone's marriage and shatter their entire existence. One could describe her lineal mother as treacherous as a snake. No one could fault a concubine's daughter for lacking respect toward such a lineal mother. Furthermore, Qiao Xian had married Shao Yunduan after accidentally falling into the water. But how could a girl fall into the water so easily? However, these individuals were not easily swayed. They were the esteemed madams of the distinguished noble families, well versed in the ways of deceit and cunning. They believed that third Madam Qiao had orchestrated the incident, intending for the concubine's daughter to meet her demise in the water. But to everyone's surprise, Shao Yunduan had rescued her. No one dared to speak ill of third Madam Qiao. Tian Jingjing, a member of the Tian family, felt deeply humiliated by Qiao Xian's rebuttal, particularly the final sentence. What did it imply? It hinted that although the Tian family appeared prosperous and esteemed, there might be an underlying source of trouble. How dare they? Tian Jingjing sneered, unable to contain her frustration. So, Madam Shao, it seems you hold great dissatisfaction toward third Madam Qiao. What has she done to warrant such a decisive severance? Perhaps you'd care to enlighten everyone? Tian Jingjing's mother, Ms. Yuan, was taken aback. She shot her daughter a reproachful glance. Jingjing. Meanwhile, Qiao Xian had already begun staging her own performance. She sighed, shaking her head, and replied, "The past is in the past. What good does it serve to delve into old matters? Although we are estranged, I have no desire to dwell on the past any longer. Ms. Tian is correct. As juniors, we should strive to be reasonable, adhere to decorum, and exhibit kindness. Let us leave certain things behind us. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 1100. Good luck. Qiao Xian's heavy sighs seemed to cast Tian Jingjing as the unreasonable one. Tian Jingjing struggled to find her words. Enough, Jingjing. Ms. Yuan interjected, unable to tolerate the situation any longer. She grasped her daughter's sleeves and shot her a warning glance. Tian Jingjing fell silent, turning away in anger. Ms. Yuan couldn't help but inwardly complain about her foolish daughter. Why was Tian Shanshan's business her concern? Tian Shanshan and her father couldn't exploit Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan, so why was she so eager? She had a penchant for hanging around Tian Shanshan and putting blind trust in her. Her mother's advice held no sway compared to Tian Shanshan's influence. How exasperating. Though the spectacle had fallen short of their expectations, no one dared to stir up further trouble. They saw the situation clearly. The Tian family had already backed down, and no one else dared to provoke Madame Shao. Was there anyone with a grudge against her? Certainly not. Moreover, after alienating the Tian family to such an extent and causing concerns among the noble and prestigious families in the capital, Qiao Xian and Shao Yunduan had managed to turn the situation around and establish themselves firmly. It was undoubtedly a stroke of luck. Even if it was attributed to luck, it made them impressive and awe-inspiring. Those in the government offices, especially those in higher positions, feared opposing someone who appeared to be born with the fortune of the government. They possessed an inherent advantage that others couldn't envy. Going against them meant inviting misfortune upon oneself. It was still premature to make conclusive judgments. But what was the point? Consequently, the conversation shifted swiftly to other topics. Many madams even expressed their willingness to seek Qiao Xian's assistance should they encounter any issues with their prized flowers and trees at home. Qiao Xian responded with a smile and a nod. She harbored no concerns that the madams would treat her as a mere gardener, entrusting her with the care of ordinary flowers and trees. After all, she had tended to the emperor's most prized peony, and no one would dare to belittle her as a common florist. Such treatment would be utterly humiliating. No one would be so foolish. Even Qiao Wei wouldn't stoop to that level. Soon, the conversation shifted to the latest trends in clothing, accessories, and makeup within the capital's elite circles. These noble ladies had been accustomed to a life of luxury since a young age, paying meticulous attention to their appearance and indulging in fine attire, fine dining, luxurious accommodations, and extravagant means of transportation. They were well versed in the art of dressing up. With ample leisure time on their hands, it was only natural for them to discuss these matters. Qiao Xian found herself genuinely intrigued. These were areas of expertise she had never delved into before. While she may not necessarily need such knowledge, there was no harm in listening and expanding her understanding. Thankfully, she possessed a good sense of style, ensuring she dressed well. Yet, upon reflection, if she were truly a concubine's daughter from a small town who had always been disregarded by her lineal mother, she would encounter numerous difficulties in such circles. The barriers within this social sphere were strict indeed. Those who didn't belong would always struggle to fit in. Qiao Xian recognized that she was not a part of their inner circle, despite the kind treatment she received from the madams. There was no way to gain true acceptance from them. Ultimately, it was Shao Yunduan who held the key to her integration. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1101. Shao Yunduan. Qiao Xian remained unfazed by the outcome, recognizing that it hinged on Shao Yunduan's position and influence. However, she harbored no concern about it. To her surprise, the topic shifted to lipsticks. The lipsticks she had created had already gained considerable fame within the capital. For the time being, Yuezheng Shao had decided against selling the lipsticks in the capital. Instead, he had discussed with Qiao Xian the prospect of selling them in the province. The capital's market was vast, upscale, and intricate in terms of connections. It was best to avoid involvement in it for now. Although they could collaborate with the Xie family to alleviate some of the challenges, the Xie family was a massive clan, and Xie Jingrong's influence was limited. There was no guarantee that the Xie family wouldn't cause complications. Furthermore, the quantity of goods available was limited. Given the restricted production capacity, Qiao Xian couldn't obtain a substantial supply of lipsticks. Thus, she decided to keep this lucrative and secure venture to herself. She had no intention of sharing the lipstick formulas and craftsmanship with anyone else, aligning with Yuezheng Shao's opinion. Yuezheng Shao respected her boundaries and never probed into the lipstick formulas and craftsmanship, fostering Qiao Xian's eagerness to spend time with the Yuezheng family. Once she possessed the means to keep the secret hidden from everyone, she could establish a workshop in a suitable location. Yet again, it depended on Shao Yunduan. But she didn't feel rushed. Although Yuezheng Shao was only selling lipsticks within the province, they had gained considerable renown. His elder brother would bring some as gifts for his business partners during his travels, and some people within the province purchased them for their relatives and friends in other regions. Gradually, news of these lipsticks reached the intermediate circles within the capital. Yuezheng Shao possessed 10 limited editions, and out of those 5 were acquired by noble ladies residing in the capital. Numerous ladies and madams were fervently inquiring about the purchasing process, and some even sought assistance from others to obtain them. Merchants based in the capital, particularly those specializing in rouge and cosmetics, attempted to study the strategies for selling these limited editions. However, their efforts were all in vain. Due to Yuezheng's remote location, and the fact that the lipsticks posed no threat to the sales of lip gloss within a 500-meter radius of the capital, people either approached Yuezheng Shao for cooperation or resorted to empty threats of collaboration. Being situated in a secluded corner, The Yuezheng family enjoyed relative tranquility. The merchants who visited their doorstep were nowhere near the same league as the Yuezheng family, let alone capable of suppressing them. Yuezheng Shao had publicly declared that the production process was intricate, involving complex raw materials, and the products were strictly limited in quantity. This created the perception that the product was exceedingly rare and difficult to produce, causing many to step back. However, Xiao Xian was taken aback by her own mention in this context. The topic of lipsticks ignited great excitement among the madams, who indulged in comparing the variety of styles and colors they possessed. I've heard that lipstick production is quite troublesome, resulting in limited availability. Such a pity. Yes, if only we could establish a store in the intermediate area. We wouldn't have to go through so much trouble to acquire them. At times, we can't even manage to purchase them. There's an overwhelming demand here. In my opinion, it seems that the owner lacks business acumen. Why not consider opening a store in the capital? What's the point of worrying about the business? The owner is not unintelligent. They are capable of making profits, but opening multiple stores might not be feasible. I've heard that there is only one store in Yuzhang City, just one. Absolutely. Exactly. Otherwise, there would have been additional stores by now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1102. Not lying. Oh yes, second madam said, turning towards Qiao Xian with a smile. Madam Shao hails from Yuzhang, doesn't she? You must be well informed about this, right? All eyes turned to Qiao Xian. Tian Jingjing sneered and cast a contemptuous glance at Qiao Xian, assuming that lipsticks were too expensive for her, and she couldn't afford them. How could she possibly know? Lipsticks were being sold for 10 liang, and Yuezheng Shao had offered Qiao Xian 5 liang for each one. Qiao Xian was taken aback by the sudden question. She immediately faced a dilemma. She couldn't reveal the truth, but third Madam Qiao, Qiao Wei, and Qiao Ko knew that the lipsticks belonged to the Yuezheng family. If she spoke up now, it would create an uncomfortable situation between third Madam Qiao and the Yuezheng family, leading to embarrassment. Qiao Xian didn't want such an awkwardness to arise. She didn't want people to perceive her as a liar. Even if third Madam Qiao and the others didn't mention it, or didn't have the opportunity to do so, secrets known by two individuals will inevitably become known to everyone sooner or later. But telling the truth wouldn't work either. What if they were compelled to cooperate? Even without resorting to forceful tactics, it would still bring trouble upon them. Qiao Xian felt a headache coming on. She couldn't lie, and she couldn't tell the truth. She lowered her gaze, nodded, and shyly replied, "Of course I know about lipsticks. I am aware of some aspects of the business with the Yuezheng family. Lipsticks require various ingredients like roses, Chinese roses, pomegranate flowers, cinnamon, red and blue flowers for dyeing." That was all she could disclose. Even third Madam Qiao had limited knowledge about lipsticks. She relied on the Yuezheng family, leading her to subconsciously believe that they were in charge of the business, not her. Even if they were about to speak, they wouldn't have much to say. As expected, everyone was taken aback and quickly grasped the situation. They had never anticipated that Qiao Xian had a connection to lipsticks. Knowing how to cultivate flowers and considering that lipsticks required flower dyes, it seemed logical for the Yuezheng family to collaborate with her. I never expected Madame Shao to possess such expertise. Indeed, Madame Shao is truly talented in many aspects. Wait a moment. They all grew increasingly curious. Qiao Xian began sharing some anecdotes and stories. They listened with emotional sighs, their perceptions of her shifting. How fortunate they were. She must have earned a substantial amount of money simply by supplying flowers. It explained why she could accompany Editor Shao to the capital. It also shed light on why Editor Shao would rather offend the Tian family than divorce her. So someone asked Qiao Xian if she could buy lipsticks from Yuzhang. The capital was very far away from Yuzhang, and no one would send their family to Yuzhang for no reason. Therefore, whenever there was a new grade, It could not be bought at all. They needed to spend a lot of efforts to buy some. Xiao Xian found herself in a predicament. She had mentioned that if anyone desired the lipsticks, they could seek her assistance. However, she wasn't certain if she could fulfill those requests. While in the capital, both she and Shao Yunduan had no means of maintaining direct contact with Yuzhang. Their only option was to send letters through a caravan. Everyone concurred, understanding that Xiao Xian lacked the assistance of servants capable of running errands over such a long distance. They were even less reliable than her own family. Thus, the idea was quickly dismissed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1103. Forget it. They all engaged in lively conversation over tea and reveled in the picturesque surroundings, soon gathering for a delightful lunch. Someone mentioned their plan to visit Faiyun Temple in the north to offer incense, and invited Xiao Xian to join them. Xiao Xian agreed with a nod. One by one, they departed for their destination. However, He Jiqing requested that Xiao Xian stay back and have a chat with her. She also extended an invitation for Xiao Xian to visit the fourth prince's mansion whenever she had the time. Xiao Xian politely nodded, inwardly determined not to accept the invitation. She had no idea what He Jiqing had in mind, but she knew it couldn't be anything good. However, she didn't want to revisit the time when she and Shao Yunduan had left the capital, facing the fourth prince's attempts to set them up. If the opportunity arose in the future, she could consider paying them a visit then. For now, she decided to let it go. Secondary concubine sure hadn't caused any trouble, and Xiao Xian had done nothing to provoke her either. Shao Yunduan felt relieved seeing her safe and sound. Approaching her, he couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief before saying, "Look, you've returned safely and unharmed. The fourth prince's estate must be magnificent, and the red leaves on the mountains must be stunning." Shao Yunduan sighed with relief and gently held her hands. "I will have a few days off soon. Let's go to the mountains and enjoy the beauty of the red leaves, all right?" Xiao Xian smiled and nodded. "That sounds like a plan." "Absolutely." It was autumn in the capital, and vibrant red leaves adorned the scenery. Shao Yunduan had intended to take her mountain climbing and admire the picturesque landscapes. After all, he didn't want his wife to feel lonely. With his busy schedule at Hanlin Academy, she had little to do to pass the time. Xiao Xian had been busy managing their properties at home. She had a lot on her plate, and she could even whip up delicious meals. However, without many people to share them with and help with the tasting, she and Shao Yunduan felt that something was missing. Xiao Xian recounted her encounter with He Jiqing to Shao Yunduan. Seeing Shao Yunduan's puzzled expression, she couldn't help but chuckle. It dawned on her that Shao Yunduan had never met He Jiqing before and had no idea who she was. After some thought, Xiao Xian decided to share He Jiqing's identity and how she had been involved in the scheme against Tao Tao and herself. He Jiqing was, after all, the concubine of the fourth prince, and the fourth prince had a close relationship with the Tian family. Xiao Xian believed that Shao Yunduan should be aware of this, rather than being kept in the dark. Shao Yunduan furrowed his brow. "That really happened?" Xiao Xian sneered and glanced at him. "This cousin of mine is nothing more than a cunning woman, and I have exposed her true nature. It's a matter of reputation, and I don't want to dwell on it. I thought we would never cross paths again, so I decided to spill the beans. But now she's associated with the fourth prince." After such a long detour, they had encountered the situation once again. Shao Yunduan spoke, his tone serious. "This woman is up to no good. Stay away from her as much as possible. She's just a concubine without an official title, and she won't hold it against you for not associating with her." Although the imperial family held great power, a prince's concubine did not possess enough influence to command the women of the court, especially when it came to someone as unique as Xiao Xian. Xiao Xian smiled. "I will keep my distance from her, and we will only meet at formal gatherings. However, she must have approached me for a reason. I fear the fourth prince is behind this, and he is after you, my husband." If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1104. Understanding. In the eyes of outsiders, Qiao Xian was perceived as someone who only knew how to care for flowers and trees. Moreover, she was already quite capable in the presence of the emperor, and the fourth prince wouldn't gain much from her. Peony flowers didn't fall ill all the time, and Qiao Xian's usefulness lay more in handling emergencies. The fourth prince didn't need to go through so much trouble. However, Shao Yunduan was different. He had achieved the title of champion among numerous intermediate masters, due to his genuine talent. He was an honest man with high moral values and fearlessness in the face of power. Most importantly, he enjoyed the emperor's protection, which wasn't an easy feat. Furthermore, anyone from the Qiao family could easily discover the kind of family they were. It would become evident that Shao Yunduan must have employed some clever tactics to sever ties with the Qiao family. In the eyes of outsiders, Qiao Xian seemed disconnected from all of this. The fourth prince might have realized that it was the Qiao family who severed ties, but it was Shao Yunduan who successfully escaped the troubles associated with them. Given these factors, it was possible that the fourth prince had ulterior motives. Shao Yunduan's heart skipped a beat. He hadn't expected his wife to be so astute. "My love, you're overthinking," Shao Yunduan reassured her, taking her hand and speaking calmly. "I am merely a minor editor at Hanlin Academy, and am not worth the efforts of the fourth prince. Even if he harbors intentions, now is not the opportune time." Qiao Xian contemplated his words and agreed, deciding to put those thoughts aside. Instead, she focused on the idea of mountain climbing with him. The persimmons in the capital were especially sweet, the dates delightfully crunchy, and the grapes incredibly delicious. There was an abundance of these fruits during this time of year. They planned to climb mountains, purchase fresh fruits from local farmers, search for wild mushrooms and fungi, and enjoy picking wild fruits. It would be a splendid adventure. Shao Yunduan was well aware that the fourth prince had his eyes on him due to the Tian family incident. However, everything thus far had been a subtle test, nothing overt. He had maintained a low profile, carefully concealing key information to avoid drawing unnecessary attention. He had successfully evaded a few traps along the way. For now, things were progressing smoothly. Shao Yunduan exercised patience, knowing that he needed to wait for the right moment to approach the emperor and request to be released from his current position. He had already devised a solid excuse. He desired to become a local official and make tangible contributions to the well-being of the local populace. That was precisely what he yearned for, as it would allow him to escape the troubles of the capital. If they remained in the intermediate region of the capital, the Tian family would eventually catch up to them. Of course, he could seek the support of a patron and serve the crown prince or another prince, but he had no such intentions. Even though he hadn't been in the capital for long, he possessed enough clarity to perceive the situation for what it truly was, unswayed by the allure of fame and fortune. The emperor dedicated much of his time to cultivation and pill-making, resulting in only 5 or 6 imperial court meetings per month. Governmental affairs were seemingly managed by the crown prince, the princes, and the cabinet elders. However, things weren't as straightforward as they appeared. The crown prince's kind-heartedness often led to the involvement of various factions and forces before reaching a resolution in most governmental matters. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 1105. The events of today seemed to benefit the fourth prince, while the third prince would strive to gain advantages in the next day's events. If there were any vacancies the day after tomorrow, another struggle would ensue. What about the crown prince? He was constantly burdened with the task of balancing conflicts among his brothers. His selflessness was admirable, but his efforts seemed futile when faced with his difficult siblings. It went without saying that the emperor's most trusted Taoist, Shangzhen, had been discovered by honored Princess Mei and the fourth prince. Honored Princess Mei had always been favored, and the fourth prince possessed intelligence that endeared him to the emperor the most. The only one who could challenge the crown prince's authority was the fourth prince. The second prince was not to be underestimated either. His mother, Princess Concubine Virtue, was the niece of the late Empress Dowager and belonged to the powerful Sun family. The Sun family held military might, and the emperor and the Empress Dowager shared a close relationship, having grown up with Consort Da. Consequently, they held the second prince in high regard. As for the third prince, although his maternal family lacked grandeur and excitement, he was the son of the current Empress Qi. Besides the crown prince, he held the most honorable status. This advantage, coupled with his Khanate realm cultivation, naturally garnered him many followers. Empress Qi may not possess the same virtue as the former empress, but over the years, she had amassed significant influence. It was evident to all that the emperor appointed Empress Qi as empress because her family lacked power or talent, ensuring that no one posed a threat to the crown prince. During that time, the emperor still held the crown prince in high regard. However, as time went on, things would inevitably become more complicated. The emperor had no intention of abolishing the crown prince, but at times he couldn't help but feel that something was amiss. No one knew what was truly on the emperor's mind. With so much unknown, imagination ran wild. Furthermore, the crown prince's kind-heartedness often led him to make concessions to gloss over issues, inadvertently empowering his younger brothers and fueling their arrogance. They looked down on him even more. Even Shao Yunduan, who had just arrived in the capital, couldn't help but worry for the crown prince. The crown prince's benevolence was admirable, but would he truly be able to withstand the challenges until the end? It wasn't that he lacked kindness, but rather, the other princes failed to appreciate his kind gestures and instead took advantage of them. Shao Yunduan held a favorable impression of the crown prince. He was a friendly and benevolent man, but as the crown prince, he had no means to exert control over the others. Although the surface of the capital appeared calm, the tension beneath the facade was palpable. No one knew when the taut string would snap. Not wanting to offend anyone, Shao Yunduan decided it was best to leave the capital. In fact, had it not been for the emperor's words at the banquet, he might have been forced out of the capital. Shao Yunduan chose not to disclose this to Qiao Xian. It would only add to her troubles, and it wasn't necessary. They still had time to devise a plan. 2 days later, the weather remained pleasant. During their break, Shao Yunduan took Qiao Xian out for a walk. The red leaves in the fourth prince's courtyard were exquisite, but the mountains were adorned with a mesmerizing display of fiery red and golden colors, captivating their hearts even more. They picked an abundance of mushrooms in the mountains, as well as persimmons and dates from the farmer's house at the foot of the mountain. They purchased eggs and pickles produced by the farmer's family, enjoying the afternoon until the sun began to set in the west, returning home with contentment. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know. Report so we can fix it as soon as possible. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.